Hey, we called on it to be a line of scrimmage game, and it damn sure was. All right? And that's how it's got to go down. It's a good division win, man. We thought all the way at the end, all right, for a 4-minute drive, that's running, that's hitting, that's brotherhood, and it's winning time. All right, so sleep fast. Wednesday's tomorrow.
That was Dan Quinn's post-game speech on Sunday where he said Wednesday is tomorrow. That meant Wednesday was on Monday when he said it, but today is Wednesday, which means it's more like Saturday if the game was on Sunday. No quiz on that, I promise. But know this, tomorrow night at Lambeau, one of the NFL's early big games in the 2025 season. Washington hasn't played in one of those in the early portion of a season since probably 2017, when they, in week 3 on Sunday Night Football, faced the Raiders, who the previous season had gone 12-4, came into, and Washington had been a decent team the year before as well. There were expectations of both teams in 2017, and Washington destroyed the Raiders on Sunday Night Football that night, 27-10 to get to 2-1. Really racking my brain and going through the schedule. That's the last time an early season game with Washington involved meant something to the rest of the league, to league's fans. Washington right now is the number one, after 1 week, it's 1 week, the number one team in the league per the DVOA metric. Green Bay is the number 3 team in the league per the DVOA metric. We've got all the power rankings coming out after week 1. Green Bay at ESPN.com, the number 4 team in the league. Washington, the number 6 team in the league. This is a big early season game. Second biggest game, I would say, of the upcoming weekend. Been a long time since you could say that about Washington in an early season game. I would certainly say that the rematch of the Super Bowl, the Eagles and the Chiefs, Sunday at 4:25, is the number 1 game of the weekend. But this, tomorrow night at Lambeau, is number 2. I did make a mistake yesterday on this show. I know it never happens, except for basically every day ending in Y. I mentioned that the last time that Washington and Green Bay met in prime time was back in the 2001 season when Washington and Green Bay played on the Monday night in that first NFL weekend following 9/11. You know, they opened up that season. 9/11 happened on that Tuesday following the first weekend of NFL football. They canceled it the following weekend. And then that third weekend was Washington at Lambeau. They got beat 37-0. That actually was not. And thank you, several of you who tweeted me to remind me of the 2016 game where Washington destroyed Aaron Rodgers in the Packers on Sunday Night Football, 42-24. Remember how chilly and windy it was that night heading into Thanksgiving week? Got Washington to 6-3-1, and they went to Dallas on Thanksgiving Day 4 days later to face Dak Prescott's Cowboys. He was a rookie, and they were 9-1 in 2016. In fact, that Washington-Dallas matchup, in terms of the aggregate wins, it was the single most important matchup other than the 2012 season ender, but the records of those teams were nowhere near where they were for that Thanksgiving Day game. I felt that week, I'll never forget this, and I've said it for the last several years, that Skins-Cowboys Thanksgiving Day game with the Cowboys being 9-1 and Washington having destroyed Green Bay on Sunday Night Football 42-24 to get to 6-3-1 felt like the most anticipated Washington-Dallas game leading into it. And man, was that a game on Thanksgiving Day. The Cowboy fans were juiced. We couldn't get off the field, and Dustin Hopkins missed 2 field goals, and we lost 31-26. But thank you for all of you who reminded me of that Sunday night game. That was the last primetime game. No, the playoff game was not primetime. That was a late afternoon Sunday game in the 2015 season, January of 2016, when Washington lost at home to Green Bay in the postseason, 35-18. But tomorrow night, it's a Thursday night game. We know what these Thursday night games typically are, but they're probably less so early in the season when there isn't a lot of wear and tear. And let's face it, both teams had relatively easy football games on Sunday. The Packers had that game wrapped up going into the fourth quarter. Even though the score was close at 14-6, it felt like Washington had that game wrapped up against the Giants. Both teams should be fresh. I know that there are a lot of names on the injury report, but this sets up for a massive, Thursday night game in the NFL. Big-time quarterback matchup. Jordan Love looked really good. Watched that game last night, Lions-Packers, the condensed version, not the whole 3-hour plus version. I've got a few notes on the Packers from that game that I'll share with you here momentarily. But this should be a really good game. Green Bay is a 3.5-point favorite. I see right now, even though it's Thursday night football, and sometimes you get lesser, get sloppier games, not as many points. I see a shootout tomorrow night. Total, by the way, 48.5. That is, for this weekend, the biggest over-under number on the board. Washington, Green Bay, tomorrow night at 48.5. A half point better than Jacksonville and Cincinnati, who have an over-under number of 40. I see this game going high, both teams, and 28-24, 31-28 kind of a game. Whoever has the ball last will win. Today on the show, Joe Theismann will join us. Joe will be on at 11 a.m. It was Joe's birthday yesterday. Joe played a game or two on his birthday, one infamous night in Dallas on Monday Night Football to open up the season many, many years ago. And it did not go well for Joe, but we'll have Joe on the show, get his thoughts about the game tomorrow night, and we'll look back as well on the game Sunday. And then at noon, we've got Bart Winkler, who covers the NFL, but specifically the Packers for the Infinity Sports Network. So we'll get some opponent, view from Bart Winkler at 12. Max, hit the what do you got, if you don't mind. So the word is in on Jalen Carter's suspension yesterday. The NFL fined Jalen Carter for the spitting incident at Dak Prescott in the Thursday night opener before the first play from scrimmage had actually taken place. He got fined $57,222. That is a game check for him. The league also said that he was suspended for one game, but time served because his ejection happened before he ever took a snap in the game against the Cowboys. That one game suspension was served. They will have Jalen Carter for the game Sunday against the Chiefs. And then, did you see this from over the weekend? On opening weekend, you get a lot of news coming out about things that happened typically over the summer. The Cowboys traded Micah Parsons to the Packers, and we will see him tomorrow night. But Jay Glazer reported that Philadelphia offered Dallas 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and a fifth-round pick, and then, quote, among other things, closed quote, in exchange for Parsons. That was a bigger package than the Cowboys traded for with Green Bay, but they were not going to trade Micah Parsons within the division. But the Eagles wanted Micah Parsons badly and went all in on Micah Parsons, according to Jay Glazer. There was some other reporting before Sunday and before the weekend that the Cowboys were one of the teams that had expressed interest in Micah Parsons, but we didn't get the package. 2 firsts, a third, a fifth, among other things for Micah Parsons. Man, the Eagles do, when they feel like they are ready to win it all, they do go for it. They have proven that over and over again. Their pass rush, though, should be fine. I mean, there was no Josh Sweat, no Milton Williams in the lineup, but I like that guy 97, Ajomo. And then, obviously, they did not have Jalen Carter. Nolan Smith looked good. And remember, they still don't have Nakobe Dean after that injury in the postseason last year before the championship game, actually before the Rams game. I think he got hurt in the snow game against the Rams, if my memory serves me correctly. But Nakobe Dean is on the PUP list and won't be available for a few more weeks in Philadelphia. They certainly have a lot of talent. Can you imagine if the Cowboys had actually traded Micah Parsons to the Eagles? I don't think that was ever going to happen, but it was a stronger offer, obviously, than the 2 first-round picks in Kenny Clark. 2 first-rounders, a third, and a fifth, among other things. So I'm sure there was a player potentially heading to Dallas in the deal as well. One thing that was not mentioned was any sort of Washington interest in Micah Parsons. You know, Micah Parsons came out yesterday and said this about Dan Quinn in advance of tomorrow night's game. Quote, "Dan's my guy. Even going through the process over the years, he's always reached out, just checking on me as a person. Never really cared about football, always telling me how much his wife misses me and how he wants to see me in Hawaii one day." I think Dan travels and vacations in Hawaii. "That's just my guy. He knows it's just like a father figure, uncle, however you want to put it. That's my guy, and we're going to go forever. We're in this for the long run, and maybe our journeys might cross again one day." Maybe, but he's in Green Bay for the foreseeable future, that's for sure. But there was no reporting that I could find that Washington was one of the interested parties in Micah Parsons. You know, and you wonder, the fact that Dan Quinn and Micah Parsons have a great personal relationship doesn't necessarily mean that Dan Quinn would be super interested in trading for him or trading a boatload for him and paying him $47 million a year. You just never know how those things go, because the personal relationship often is separate from the professional one. Washington, I absolutely believe would have been all in on Myles Garrett. I think they were definitely interested and expressed interest in Trey Hendrickson. But Micah Parsons, nothing's been reported. Now, maybe they're just smart enough to know, why waste our time? Dallas is never going to trade him within the division. That makes sense as well. All right. Tomorrow night, I watched the condensed version of the Packers-Lions game. First of all, the Lions didn't look as bad as maybe the score indicated. They're still going to be, I think, a pretty good offensive football team. They only scored 13 points. I get it. Jared Goff had a couple of balls dropped in that game, but he still has Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. He's got that, a quick inside guy, Khalif Raymond. He's got Sam Laporta, who had a big day. For them, Detroit in this game, they just couldn't convert enough on third down. And a lot of that was because of the pressure. Micah Parsons, Rashawn Gary, Cooper, and some of the others. The Packers are good defensively, very good defensively. And this is going to be a test, especially on the road in front of a hostile crowd. But the big difference, the way I see it, in terms of what Detroit couldn't do and what Washington can do, is Washington's quarterback has mobility, and Jared Goff has no mobility. He was sacked 4 times in the game, pressured a bunch, and I think Washington with Jaden Daniels will be able to handle that a little bit better. I think it's going to be hard to run the football against Green Bay. But again, Washington's rushing attack is different than Detroit's because the quarterback is dual threat. You've got the quarterback as a potential runner. So that makes a big difference. I will tell you this. I will be very impressed if Washington rushes the football against Green Bay the way they did against the Giants. And I consider the Giants to be, at least talent-wise, pretty good on defense. And Washington was very successful running the football. But on the road against this Green Bay front with those linebackers, Quay Walker is on the injury list. I think Lucas Van Ness was on the injury list. We'll find out, between today and tomorrow, whether or not those are just, putting them on there and they're resting because it's a short week, et cetera. Lucas Van Ness, who was picked in the first round, remember, a couple of years ago, I personally believe that Washington's attempt to trade up was for Lucas Van Ness. This was the Emmanuel Forbes draft. The big kid out of Iowa, he is definitely a force against the run. Good pass rusher, too. Rashawn Gary's always been great. This kid, Edrin Cooper, can really, really play. Number 56. Had to go look that up. He is in his second season. He was a second-round pick last year out of A&M. He can really play. Green Bay defensively is good. Their back end is excellent. The kid, Evan Williams, 33, is an excellent safety. They're a good football team defensively. I'd be very surprised if Washington rushes the football unless it's the quarterback on scrambles and on options and some of the design stuff. I'm not expecting Washington's movement in this game to be, on the ground. I think they can throw the football, and I think Jaden, certainly with the extension of time, which Jared Goff is an in-timing, thrower of the football. He's not mobile. It's a totally different test for Green Bay, clearly. But where Green Bay, I thought, was even more impressive because they only had the ball for 47 offensive snaps in this game. Jordan Love looked great throwing the football. He looked awesome throwing the football. They nullified, for the most part, Hutchinson defensively and the pass rush of Detroit. He was not sacked in this game. They did a phenomenal job protecting. He did a great job getting it out in a hurry. But here's what is surprising to me. Remember, over the last couple of years, it's like, who are they throwing the football to? Dobbs, Reed, whatever it's been. In the entire game, 10 different guys caught passes from Jordan Love. In the first quarter, he completed passes to 8 different receivers. 8. That's a lot for a game, let alone a quarter. They converted on their first 4 third down attempts and then didn't convert on another one without penalty help. They had 2 conversions via the penalty on third down. But their first quarter really was the game. They scored on their 2 first drives to take a 10-0 lead. They converted on all the third downs. The third downs were all long, and they were all the different receivers. Dobbs, Reed, Wicks, and then Kraft on a third down and long for a touchdown that gave them a 7-0 lead. The rookie caught a big ball. They had the running back Josh Jacobs caught a ball. 8 different pass receivers in the first quarter. He is really good at spreading it around. He can really throw the football. I like Jordan Love a lot. He also did not really show off his mobility. He's a very mobile quarterback. He didn't need to. They protected him so well, and he gets the ball out. He processes quickly, and the ball is out. Now, maybe Washington will be a bigger test than Detroit is defensively. Detroit has some pass rushers, obviously, with Aiden Hutchinson. They've got a back end, too, when it's healthy. Brian Branch is a star. They've got some players defensively that we didn't have to face in the playoff game because they were so banged up. But maybe Washington will find over the next month that the additions of Kinlaw and Goldman and Wise and Harris, etc., have made this a completely different defense. It looked that way in the opener. But the Green Bay offense is going to be a test as well. Jacobs was, okay as a runner. He was fine. They moved the football on their 47 snaps through the air with Jordan Love making one incredibly accurate throw after another, one really good decision after another. I know that last year in what was, his, season following his breakout year in 2023, right? 2023 was the breakout season when he got the start after Rodgers had left. And they went to the playoffs. They won a game. They actually had a really good chance to beat San Francisco, remember, in the divisional round. And last year, it was like 800 fewer yards passing, 7 fewer touchdowns, more picks. But it wasn't, they won 11 games last year. They won 11 games and they were in the playoffs. That division had a 15-game winner and a 14-game winner in front of it, along with an 11-game winner. I mean, that division was insane last year, the NFC North. 15, 14, and 11 before you got to Chicago's 4-13, 5-12, 6-11, something like that. The discussion about Jordan Love's sort of step-back year, he was still pretty good, and Green Bay was pretty good. Green Bay didn't have enough pass rush last year, and that ended up being a bit of a difference maker in some of their division games. But their division games last year, they ended up being the 6th seed. The 7th seed, because Washington was the 6th seed. But they were the 6th seed after losing one heartbreaking game after another. They lost to Philly, remember, in the opener last year in Brazil, a game they could have won. They lost a game in which they had a big lead at Minnesota by 2. They lost to Detroit on Thanksgiving, or the week after Thanksgiving, in a nail-biter, 34-31. They lost, late in the season at Minnesota by 2. They lost their last game of the year, which didn't really matter because they didn't have a lot to play for. They started Malik Willis by 2 to Chicago. I mean, if they play their starters, they're a 12-win team last year. That was the game, remember, where seeding was at stake with Washington's game against Dallas and Green Bay's game against Chicago. But anyway, I was impressed. I was so impressed with Jordan Love. I think that this guy is legit upper tier. I don't think he's in the class with Jackson and Mahomes and Burrow and Jaden, and Josh Allen. But he's near the top part of the next group of quarterbacks. And he may not have a superstar receiver, although Dobbs is quite the target and an athlete. But they've got a lot of guys that are good. It's going to be a great game tomorrow night. It's too bad that it's the short week game. I mean, I love that it's prime time, and I love that there's this chance for the nation to see this showdown between two really good teams in the NFC, two excellent quarterbacks, young quarterbacks in the NFC. But, typically you like to see the full week and both teams playing full rest, etc. Should be a hell of a game. Very impressed with Green Bay. By the way, the other thing is their kicker, for those that don't know, is Brandon McManus. Remember, signed by Washington and then cut by Washington after those allegations that ultimately were proven to be false. Brandon McManus was last year picked up by the Packers. He started with Jacksonville. He went to Jacksonville, went to Washington to Green Bay, ended up kicking in 11 games last year, kicked very well last year, and he's off to a good start this year. In fact, 2 for 2 in the game on Sunday. What was he last year? 20 of 21. Brandon McManus last year, 20 of 21. With the Packers for 11 games after they picked him up. So he's a threat as well. And by the way, big leg also. This is going to be a hell of a game. I mean, this is early for us to get to the next game, but it's tomorrow because today, Wednesday, is really Saturday. Just ask Dan Quinn. All right, we've got NFL buy and sell today. Joe Theismann coming up at 11. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show on the Team 980, the team980.com. We're free and live on the Odyssey app. Don't forget, you can watch us on our Team 980 YouTube channel. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button when you get there.
You would know Micah better than most. Opposing offenses kind of geared towards him. You saw it in Dallas that didn't always work. How do you combat a guy? Is it inevitable that he's going to make those plays in that backfield?
Are you asking what would I do if I was
Sure.
coaching him? Yeah, I'd sit him this week on a short week.
Chick Hernandez asking Quinn, and he said, yeah, my guy'd sit him tomorrow night. That'd be helpful for sure, but I don't think he's going to sit. And He played really well, really pressured the quarterback, had a sack. It's a different quarterback, though, that he'll be chasing down, but one that he's chased down before, right? He played in one of the games last year or both of them. Remember, Jaden in the second game only played a half against Dallas in the season finale. Anyway, Micah Parsons, a big part of tomorrow night's game. Real quickly, this from my guy, Jared, who I haven't heard from in a while. That Raiders game was massively hyped. Do you remember who the Raiders coach was in that game? I actually don't, or I didn't, but I went back and looked it up. It was Jack Del Rio. Jack Del Rio was the head coach of the Raiders. I did not remember that. And of course, Jay Gruden was the coach here. And I pulled up the box score to find out who the coach was. They were 12-4 the year before, the Raiders were. But Washington, was 1-1. They had lost the opener to the Eagles, and then they'd gone to L.A., the Coliseum, actually, to beat the Rams. And then they came back home, and they were a 3.5-point underdog in that game on Sunday Night Football, and they destroyed the Raiders 27-10. The score was really not indicative of how much they dominated it. Kirk threw for 365 and 3 touchdowns. Chris Thompson had a massive game, including catching a swing pass and going 74 yards for a touchdown. They had some weapons, man. Those teams, 15, 16, and 17, they definitely had some weapons for sure. All right. Before we get to NFL buy or sell, we'll get to that in a few minutes. And if you guys want to weigh in, you got to buy something NFL-wise, all right? A player, a team. It's only 1 week. A trend, a division, whatever you want to buy. You got to buy something, and then you got to get rid of something. 301-230-0980. The phone lines are opened up for that. So you heard Dan Quinn's quip yesterday to Chick Hernandez about Micah Parsons. This was Dan Quinn talking about his thoughts when Micah got traded to the Packers.
Thanks, Dan. Shifting focus to Green Bay, I wanted to ask first about Micah. What was your reaction to that trade?
I was surprised that he was traded, and I had an absolute blast coaching him. So he, brings out the mad scientist in you to see, all right, what if he was here, and how would you feature him, and what about over here? He was a player that could learn, things really quickly. But I was surprised, that he went, outside the division, I would say.
Yeah, but still in the conference, but not in the division where Philadelphia offered, according to Jay Glazer, 2 first-rounders, a third-rounder, a fifth-rounder, among other things. This was Dan Quinn talking about preparing for Micah Parsons.
And what is the toughest thing about preparing for him, especially on a short week?
Speed. Like he's in Dallas, he was one of our fastest players. So that's the hardest thing to simulate, for an offensive tackle. To see the first couple, 2 or 3 steps, it's not at a, speed that's, you can simulate in a practice rep. So that would be like early on. I think there's been some rushes that he could surprise some people if you haven't faced him, knowing that he can really jump off the ball.
He had, and I was just looking through some Green Bay bloggers, he had the highest pass rush PFF grade from Sunday's game. He played 30 total snaps out of the 67 faced in the game, which is perhaps even more than some thought, having had him just arrive. And by the way, he did not have a summer of work in Dallas. I wonder, with the short turnaround after the game on Sunday, if we're going to get a full load of Micah Parsons in the game tomorrow night. It would not shock me if his snap count sort of reflects or matches what it was on Sunday. We'll see. They do, the concern with Micah is availability. It has been at various times, including last year, and playing twice in 4 days after not really having a summer and still acclimating to your new environment. I would doubt that he's going to be out there for, if 60, percent of the snaps plus. He was in for less than half of them on Sunday against Detroit. By the way, yesterday was quarterback day, as it usually is on Wednesday. This week, I'm sorry. Quarterback day is usually Wednesday. Yesterday was quarterback day, it being a Tuesday. Today we'll get the coordinators. Today we'll get Kingsbury and we'll get Witt Jr. And then I think we are. Actually, I don't know that for sure. I'm assuming we're getting the coordinators and maybe Quinn, and then they take off for Green Bay. I can look that up. But anyway, the quarterback was asked yesterday about Brian Burns' comment about Jaden talking too much during the game.
And after the game, I'm not sure if you saw Brian Burns' remarks. He said that guy just talks way too much. I don't like to talk, and he talks way too much.
I don't got no response for that. Yeah, I don't got no response. I don't know. Just go out there and I'll just have fun. I didn't say what was said. Like, hey, buddy, what are you doing? How are you doing? That doesn't sound like me. But yeah, we do most definitely. I like to have fun on the football field.
By the way, that was by far and away during Jaden's press conference yesterday his longest answer. That and really raving about his center. Man, he does not like to talk about himself, which is what I love. But if you get him on somebody else on his team, he will talk. Yeah, of course, we don't know what Burns was saying to Jaden. But there is that one meme out there of Jaden sort of giggling as he's running away from Burns on a scramble. All right, when we come back, we will do some NFL buy and sell. Phone lines are open, 301-230-0980. You got to buy something that you like after 1 week of NFL on the buy side for sure. But we'll let you guys weigh in as well. What are your thoughts on the NFL? What do you like so far? Who do you like? Teams that you like? What don't you like? 301-230-0980. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. We're free and live on the Odyssey app.
All right, happy Wednesday. It is September 10th, everybody. Here's what's happening. The 49ers, they cut Jake Moody yesterday in a move that was largely expected. There were a lot of beef on the San Francisco 49ers sideline, and they moved George Kittle to the IR where he will miss at least 4 games with a hamstring injury. The Mystics, they fall to the Liberty yesterday. Kiki Ariafin, again, the team leader in points and rebounds. The Mystics fall 75-66. And the Nats, they are winners of 7 of their last 8 games. They beat the Marlins by a score of 7-5. The Nats bats continue to stay hot, and they will take on the Marlins again tonight at 6:40. First pitch at 6:40, and Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:10 on the Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us, and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
All right, you got to buy something you like about an NFL team or a player or anything else, and then you got to sell something you don't like right now. I'm going to give you my first buy, and then Max will give you his first buy. I'm buying Derrick Henry to set the NFL all-time rushing record in 2025. Last year, he had just short of 2,000 yards, 1,921. He's already had one 2,000-yard season as a Tennessee Titan back in 2020. Dickerson holds the record, as we know. Certainly Saquon Barkley, if he had played the season finale last year, may have had a shot at it. He ended up being 100 yards short of Dickerson. I am buying Derrick Henry, who's got 169 yards and is on pace for 2,800. No, that's not going to happen. I'm buying Derrick Henry this year to set the NFL rushing mark for a season, breaking Eric Dickerson's now 41-year-old record of 2,105 yards. Derrick Henry is actually getting better with age. We've seen that with running backs. We're familiar with a running back of an older age in this town in his greatness in his early 30s. Derrick Henry sets the NFL rushing record in 2025. That's my first buy of the NFL season. Max, what is yours?
I'm buying two players, Kevin. One showed out Sunday, 2 touchdowns, is eligible for Rookie of the Week, and it's Emeka Egbuka. Now, go vote for Bill Krosky-Merritt.
And I like him too. You love Tampa, period.
I really do. I'm high on them. I think Bucky Irvin, he played pretty well. I think if Baker stays healthy and behind the line, he's the gamer of all gamer quarterbacks. So I think that, and did you read the story of how Emeka Egbuka called that touchdown?
I did not.
So Mike Evans told this story post-game. He basically kept begging for the post route on the final drive of the game. And finally, when he got the post route, immediately beat his man, caught it, touchdown, took the lead. So if Emeka, and there's another clip from him, his time at Ohio State, where he's doing the same thing. If he's doing this on NFL sidelines against NFL guys, he's going to be a really good receiver for a long time. He could just be Mike Evans 2.0. So Emeka Egbuka,
that'd be pretty. Is he as tall as Evans?
I don't think so. I think Egbuka's like 6'2".
Yeah, I mean, Evans is a much bigger dominant target physically, but I loved Egbuka coming out. We're going to see the guy that I was like lukewarm on, but apparently he's looked really good, and that's Matthew Golden, who was a first-round pick, along with Ted McMillan in the first round of this last draft. All right, I am selling, and let me just preface what I'm going to say with, I think it's way too early to bury quarterbacks in their second year. I think it's way too early to bury quarterbacks after their fourth or fifth year. We see that quarterbacks sometimes don't really mature mentally, sometimes physically. But we've seen this is the one position where you can be counted out and years later end up having unbelievable seasons. We saw it last year with Sam Darnold. We may be seeing it this year with Daniel Jones after the opener. Who knows? But I got to tell you, man, Monday night was painful to watch Caleb Williams, in my opinion. And he completed, I think, his first 8 passes. And he's an athlete when he runs. I see a guy that is hyper, that is unsure, that just doesn't see it or feel it at the NFL level. His default is to kind of play hero ball. He's got happy feet. All of these things can be coached up. And but I think there's a lot of smoke out there. This story by the Go Long people, Tyler Dunn, with some of the Bears coaches from last year. If you haven't read that, read it. Apparently, at times, he was borderline insubordinate. He was very difficult to get along with, very difficult to teach. There's all sorts of stuff swirling around Caleb Williams. I have no idea if any of it is true. I am basing it only on the player I watched last year and the player I watched Monday night. And it is new with Ben Johnson. I may completely do a 180 4 or 5 or 8 weeks from now. But there's something about the way he sees the game from that position that is a disconnect for me. So I'm going to sell Caleb Williams from ever becoming a guy that was worthy of the number 1 pick. And by the way, if that is true, Ryan Poles should be fired so fast. How he didn't even consider anybody else with the number 1 overall pick, going as far as not even interviewing Jaden Daniels. How could you turn on the 2023 tape of Jaden Daniels and not salivate at the opportunity to sit down and at least talk to him, to find out if it's more than just what you saw on the field, which was insane. It may be one of the greatest college quarterback seasons in terms of both throwing and running the football with no defense at all. The worst defense in Division I, Power 4, Power 5 at the time, conference football. Idiotic. Some of the stories coming out about the quarterback search, he was so tunnel visioned on Caleb Williams. The scouts basically said it was a farce of a process. They never considered Daniels. He never considered Drake May. He never considered Michael Penix Jr. He never considered J.J. McCarthy. He saw Caleb Williams play hero ball at USC. He saw him win the Heisman, and that's what he wanted. He thought it was the next Mahomes. Maybe he will be right. It is too early on quarterbacks, always too early on quarterbacks. 18 starts into his career. But, man, he looks completely lost from my view. And Ben Johnson, if he can't get coached up this year by Ben Johnson, that could be a huge indictment on him. That's my first sell of the year. What's yours, Max?
Well, I got another note on Caleb Williams for you. He had the NFL's second longest average time to throw in week 1 at 3.39 seconds. And he's almost tied with, funnily enough, Justin Fields for time to throw. So I'll
give you another one.
Sure.
The highest rate of incompletions due to receiver error, he was near the lowest in the league. Highest rate of incompletions due to errant throws over the last, 18 games, he's at the top of that list. He is not an accurate passer. Part of it is you can see footwork. He's got happy feet. He doesn't know what's going on. It's not unusual for a young quarterback. Comparing everybody to Jaden Daniels' rookie year is dangerous, okay, where he had everything figured out. And there's still time. He's a young man, and I'm sure he will work at it, hopefully. But there's a lot of smoke, and the view just from watching him on TV is not a pleasant one so far. By the way, real quickly, highest incompletions due to receiver error in week 1. Number 2 on that list was Jaden Daniels. Number 3 on that list will lead me to my next purchase. Did you sell something?
I have not sold anything
Okay.
yet. So here's my first sell of the day. My first sell is the New England Patriots playoff hopes. Now, I didn't put them in my playoff teams, but they've been getting they're getting their tires pumped quite a bit over the last, full off season. People like the draft, people like Vrabel hiring. I think it's going to take another year. So that will be because they just didn't look great against an okay Raiders team. They got some extra juice, but I do think that there's some things that Drake May still needs to figure out, and some things that I think the Patriots offense as a whole, they also need to find that wide receiver 1. So and Will Campbell needs to get healthy. So there are a lot of ifs for the Patriots right now. So their playoff chances, I'm selling.
That's early.
It is.
But I went under on them for the season, but that was a total contrarian play because it just seemed like everybody loved the Patriots to be the surprise team. And look, they may have lost to a team that ends up being good in the Raiders. All right, I've got a buy and a sell, and we're going to get to your calls here in a second. I just have one other buy real quickly. And no, it's not Aaron Rodgers. I already bought him before the season started. The Cleveland-Cincinnati game is one of the more fascinating games you'll ever see. The Browns don't lose that game 99 times out of 100. They were far, far the superior team. Cincinnati had 2 yards in the second half. 2 yards in the second half. They only had 141 yards for the game. This is the Cincinnati offense. Cleveland is going to be a pain in the backside for a lot of teams this year because they are nasty on defense And I'm sorry, but old Joe can still spin it. My guy, I just mentioned that Jaden was number 2 in highest rate of incompletions due to receiver error in week 1. Flacco was 3. All right. Now, what does receiver error mean? Well, drops is a big part of it. He had multiple balls dropped in the game against Cincinnati. It also accounts for when a receiver loses control at the ground. He had 2 of those that got picked off. The ball didn't bounce to the ground. It bounced up in the air after the receivers dropped him. Or a receiver can slip or fall, or a receiver doesn't get both feet in bounds when they should be able to do that. That's what receiver error is. He had the 3rd most in the league. Cleveland is not a terrible team. That may be famous last words after 1 week, but they've got players, man. Myles Garrett is the best defensive player in the game, hands down. They've got Delpit. They've got Ward. This defense is going to be a problem for people. And then write this name down, Harold Fannin Jr., 3rd-round pick at a Bowling Green. He's going to be one of the surprise young rookie tight ends in the league. And the kid that they drafted from Tennessee in the 4th round, Dylan Sampson, looked awesome. Joe had a great day. They should have never lost that game. The kicker missed a short field goal. He missed an extra point. And the receivers did not help him out. Cleveland is my other buy. They're going to be hell to deal with this year. I'm not saying they're going to, go 9-8 and make the playoffs. Their schedule is brutal, but they're going to be a tough out week in and week out. Billy and Chantilly, what's your NFL buy and sell? William, Billy. No, Billy?
Kevin.
Yes.
Good morning. Sorry. I had my headset in. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Sorry.
To remind our friends in the North, they'd have 3 more parades if they'd have kept Flacco at quarterback.
They wouldn't have had that many more parades. They wouldn't have. You
3 more.
You get a 2-time MVP.
You just bought
there.
Flacco. 3 more.
Yeah. Okay. He's a clutch quarterback, there's no doubt, but he's been a middle of the pack starter most of his career. What are you buying and what are you selling?
You had Joe Theismann on in the summertime, and he talked about negotiating his contract for $1 million and was the highest paid player. Adjusted for inflation, depending on what you use, that's about $3.5 million. Kirk is making $180 million as a backup.
Is that what you're buying?
Does Joe have a reaction to that when you speak with him today?
Billy, please? Can you stick to the script? What's your NFL buy and what's your NFL sell?
For $1,000, I am buying Jay Gruden. When we lose our offensive coordinator, that guy is brilliant. I would love to see him back in the league.
Yeah.
Jay
can design a pass offense, there's no doubt. All right, what are you selling quickly? I got to get to some other calls.
$500. For $500, I'm selling the schedule makers. Whoever makes up a schedule, Green Bay should not have a home game and then host a Thursday night game. They should have at least been on the road on Sunday. That's trash. We'll beat them anyway.
All right. Thanks, Billy. He's out of breath and he's all over the place. Let's go to our guy, Chad in Nashville. Chad, go ahead. What are you buying? What are you selling?
All right. First, I go against everything that I ever done, but I'm buying Washington to go to the Super Bowl. All right. Tom, I've always been, every time I listen to Tom on your podcast, I'm like, God, he's such a pessimist. And then I'm like, man, maybe I'm turning into a pessimist. And he picked him to go to the Super Bowl. And I went, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm doing it. I'm picking him to go to the Super Bowl. Also, one more I'm buying JJ McCarthy. I did not think he would have the arm to play in the NFL. I liked him. I thought he was going to be one of the better quarterbacks out of the draft, but I didn't realize how big he was and the arm that he had. He showed me a lot the other night. I was shocked.
He showed me a lot too, considering how horrific the first 3 quarters were. To come back and be resilient the way he was impressive in his first start. Thanks, Chad. Let's go to Anthony. Anthony, what are you buying? What are you selling NFL wise?
Right now it's too early for me. I'm not buying any players or any teams. But what I am buying is Ben Johnson is low-key kicking himself in the ass for not taking the Skins job when he had the chance to. I think poetic justice would be us winning the Super Bowl Josh Harris getting the trophy and saying not bad for a bunch of basketball guys.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Let me just tell you, I've said this many times. I don't know that Ben Johnson would have gotten the job had he gone through with the interview. I really don't. They fell in love with Quinn from the beginning. Lap in D.C. Lap, finish it up for us. What are you buying? What are you selling?
Hey, man, I'm agreement with you with Caleb, man. Caleb looks like the worst quarterback in the draft. I'm selling him. All this talk about these other quarterbacks better than Jaden, particularly Caleb. The Bears are going to be kicking and screaming for years to come. And then when I'm buying, that's what I'm selling Caleb. When I'm buying is the Commanders defense, man. Whew. They could play like that, man. We got a legit chance to go all the way, man. And definitely make some noise so we can get to the playoffs. Yep.
Yeah. If
one,
what
Kevin.
we saw Sunday is legit, it increases the chances of winning 11, 12, and being a legitimate threat to go deep in January. Joe Theismann next. Yep. Hey, Joe. That's a good way to come back. Although we could have come back with a belated happy birthday wish for our next guest, number 7, the quarterback of our very first Super Bowl winning team in 1982. Joe Theismann is with us. I did see a bunch of happy birthday wishes to you yesterday. You were your birthday was yesterday. We don't have to talk about age. You never look your age anyway, so it doesn't matter. You look 20 years younger than you really are. But I think for a lot of us of a certain age, we remember your birthday on that Monday night game in Dallas. I don't know why that is, because you probably played other games on your birthday and played well. But that was painful when they sang happy birthday to you in Texas Stadium that night back in 1985.
Kevin, why did you have to bring that up? You were doing really well. Yeah, I mean, you were nice, you were kind, and then all of a sudden you brought that up. No, that's a day I'll never forget. I mean, I wish that Texas Stadium had grass so I could have crawled under a blade of grass. It was to sit there on the bench and listen to everybody sing happy birthday. But I guess you could say I got my present in '83 when we beat them at our place in front of the most incredible fans in the world.
Still to this day, the most incredible live sports environment I have ever been in, without a doubt. And you guys say that too. All of you do. You and Doc and Rigo and Jake, everybody.
Yep. It was surreal. There's people talk about these things that happen in your life that are surreal. That was truly a surreal moment for us. And what was so great about it, it was surreal for us, but it was shared by so many fans. You'd have thought there were 300,000 people in that stadium. The amount of noise they were making and everything.
I think 300,000 people claim to have been there at the very least. But I know I've told you this before, but, we had season tickets, and my father was the father that said, we're leaving late. We're getting there, just right at kickoff or maybe a little after. And he was the one that always wanted to leave early to beat the traffic. That particular day, my brother, my father, and I got there 45 minutes to an hour before kickoff, and we were not alone. That stadium, I've never seen anything like it. The stadium was packed with 45 minutes before kickoff. I had never seen anything like that. Chanting, we want Dallas.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Absolutely unbelievable. I was, for us, obviously we ride the bus in, but you could just feel the energy. Even to this day, I still remember the energy around that particular game, that moment. I mean, everything, all the chips were on the table.
Yeah.
It was, the people didn't like us. We didn't like them. The arch rival. We'd had battles before, and now this was for the big prize, to be able to go to get the big prize. And it made it a very special time. I feel that energy back in the city again, Kevin. That's the thing that's so exciting about what this football team is doing. You look at the way they play, and they don't look like a flash in the pan team. They don't look like a team that's going to play this kind of football like we saw them against the Giants, which I think they'll do even better offensively as they grow into it. And see it sort of fade a little bit on us in time. I think this one's got some staying power.
So, every year we go through this as NFL fans, as fans of a specific team, where, one game in, people want to make great declarations and they want to, come to conclusions. And I think I've learned over the years, and I'm curious as to what you think, it's really dangerous to do that, especially over the more recent years when players don't even play in the preseason. I think that this time of year can be a bit of a head fake. What do you think?
I agree. I think the first two, at least, of the regular season games are really glorified preseason games where you have conditioning as an issue. You look at the amount of drops. I mean, look at the CeeDee Lamb dropping the ball. You look around the league at the wide receivers. How many drops? How many fumbles go on the ground because they're not used to getting?
We had a bunch of drops.
Yeah, and how how offensive linemen perform late in a game. With 7-8 minutes to go in a game after you've played 3.5 quarters. Are you tired? Are you fatigued? How's your legs? Defense is always going to have a little bit of an advantage, it seems. Unless you're playing in Buffalo or Baltimore, which turned out to be an unbelievable shootout of a football game. But again, it's a mistake here, a mistake there. And that's what really separates the great teams. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that the lack of preseason play by the players really turns it into the first 2 weeks of, like I say, glorified preseason. And now they're talking 18 games. And if they're going to go to 18 games, they're going to have to increase the roster. The National Football League has got to take a step back and say, you can't dress 53 guys during the course of a regular season game. You need to expand the roster to whatever number might be, 57, 60, whatever it is. But you need more players on the field if you want to put a quality product out.
Well, you would think with the additional revenue that would come with an 18th regular season game, they've got to increase roster sizes. I'm totally with you on that. It would be insane not to. I think you also have to add another bye week as well. So with that understood about...
Wait a second, Kev, wait.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you add another bye week. I mean, that logistically is a nightmare because you add another bye week. You've got teams playing in Europe. I'm going to go to Madrid for our game against the Dolphins. You've got London. You've got Brazil. I mean, you're going to be playing. The Super Bowl is going to show up in March.
Well, I think they want it at President's Day weekend, but with 2 byes, you'd have to start at Labor Day weekend, which has kind of been owned by college, even though you guys played Labor Day weekend, when it first went to 16 games. But here's the bottom line to that. You're right. You can't go to 18 games and not increase the roster size. You
just don't have. You're not going to have the personnel to be able to be competitive.
So on the early season can be misleading because of what you said. How much do you take out of what they were Sunday defensively? Because defense was the problem last year, and seeing signs that it's much better is encouraging, but it's one game and it's the opener. Is there anything that you can take out that you feel really confident about?
Yeah, I feel like they played well as a team. I felt like they tackled well.
Yeah.
I felt like they pressured the quarterback very well. Russell Wilson his days have gone.
Yeah.
Okay. If they don't start playing Jackson Dart soon, then the Giants have made once again another mistake when it comes to personnel. I thought the pressure up front was great. I really think they did a terrific job. In the back end, they made it difficult for places to go with the football. Our linebacking core is as solid as it gets. So, I thought it was a very solid performance on the defensive side. I think offensively what it did is it served notice that we have weapons everywhere now. We have weapons at the tight end position. Debo is a weapon no matter where he lines up. Noah's a weapon. Terry's a weapon. This game was it was like, okay, we're going to feature Debo in this one. Well, then all of a sudden you're going to get a game where people are going to try and do something to him, and it's going to be Terry's turn, or it's going to be Ertz. You have, when you look at this offense and a running game, to be honest with you, and then of course Larry Tunsil, I think, anchoring the offensive line. So the additions that were made to this football team showed up in that one, I thought, very well. And so, that will just continue to get better and better. As I say, once you get through, quote unquote, the preseason aspect of it, I think this game Thursday night is going to be a great test for us. Green Bay's been a solid football team. They are a solid football team. Now with Micah over there, we know what it's like. It isn't like all of a sudden, this is the first time you've seen Micah Parsons. We've been playing against him for, 4 or 5 years. So it's not a surprise to Dan and that group. But yeah, I thought we got off to a really solid start on the defensive side, and offensively, I think there's tremendous opportunities to grow.
How did you think Jaden played?
I think he played good football. There were a couple opportunities where he misses them, but it's scary. It's like I remember watching Michael Jordan take jumpers. You expect everyone to go in. Say with Steph Curry. Every time he shoots the ball, you expect a 3. Yeah. With Jaden, every time he throws the ball, you expect it to be exactly where it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
and it just doesn't work out that way. What I was interested in, and he is a very big part of the running game for this football team.
Yep.
And I think it falls on him to be smart about the way he runs and how he protects himself. And I think he's done a masterful job doing that. Cliff's not afraid to give him a chance to go get something, go do something. And that's the way it's been, and I think that's the way it'll be. And of course, the more you carry the ball, the more you run the ball, the greater risk there is of possibly an injury. But I think he does a terrific job of protecting himself. He gets down, he gets out of bounds. He doesn't take the unnecessary hits, moves well in the pocket. I mean, he really creates a problem for defensive teams because you think you have him and you really don't. And as soon as he steps up, he's the kind of guy who's not just looking to take off and run like we see a lot of young quarterbacks, but he's the kind of guy who's looking to get rid of the ball if he has to. And it's interesting. I want to point out a couple things. I'm watching Cam Ward in Tennessee, and I'm watching Caleb Williams in Chicago. And I watch Jaden throw the football. Jaden is a natural thrower of the football. But I define the position of throwing the football differently. He's a passer. He's a passer because he can take something off the ball. He can put touch on the ball. I watch Cam and I watch Caleb throw the ball. They are fast ball throwers.
Yeah.
I mean, they made throws in each of those games that if you take something off that ball, you're going to get big plays and completions. And they're not there yet. This is how far Jaden is ahead, I believe, of the other kids that are playing at that stage of their career.
Talking, of course, to Joe Theismann. When you started to talk about Jaden being a big part of the run game, which I think we all understand, I actually thought you were going to say he took some shots on Sunday that he didn't need to take. But you didn't say that. You said he protected himself. You got down. They run him in so many different ways. There's quarterback draw. There's, the read option. There's that quarterback counter that they run. And then obviously a lot of his yards come from scrambling. That quarterback counter, when they essentially run him, sweep or off tackle with some lead blockers countering, it's almost a lock that he's going to get tackled in a bit of a pile in the middle of the field. Do you like that play?
It's part of the offense. It's not going to be featured very often, maybe once or twice a game.
Right.
It's not the kind of thing that you say, okay, good. I mean, you've got the same situation when you're caught in the pocket, Kev, and it's collapsing around you. You got a bunch of people going to fall on top of you. So I mean, now you're at least able to protect yourself a little bit because you have the ball. When you're in the pocket, you still have the ball, but you're still focused someplace else. So I think it's used judiciously. I think his legs obviously are a big weapon for us as a football team. And the decisions that he makes with the ball in his hands are exceptional. And the thing that impressed me right from the get-go last year was his ability to throw the ball down the field. He doesn't miss many downfield throws.
Right.
And that's, again, that's a situation we talked about is just not having a chance to play and really get your game together until you start the regular season.
So, the rookie, Bill Krosky-Merritt, had a pretty good debut, 10 carries, 82 yards. What do you like about his running style?
He's explosive. He doesn't try and run over people. He's a bit elusive. He puts his foot in the ground and he goes north and south. And I like that. I like the fact that he's very, very decisive when it comes to running the football. I think that's a big thing about running backs is you need to be decisive, especially if you've got the quickness that he has. So that's the thing that impressed me.
Riggo always said it was his eyes. He said it's vision that's made him what he was. I mean, we see the power, we see the speed, which was always underrated, but he always said it's my eyes, it was my vision that made me what I was. That looks like what this kid Krosky-Merritt has.
Yeah, obviously you're comparing one of the greatest ever
I'm not.
to a young man, but no.
I'm just using something that he discussed. Yeah.
I agree with you too. And here's the thing too, is the other thing about JR, John used to sit in the offensive line meetings and study the running game.
Right.
So he would, they would look at film and he would not only see where he needed to go, but he understood what the blocking scheme was up front. So they had a little bit of an idea where else he needed to go. So certainly it was his eyes. His vision certainly was something else. But he had an understanding of what the offense was going to do and the kind of blocks that the guys up front were going to give themselves a chance to be able to make.
Other than Riggo, that's the obvious answer. Who's the best running back that ever was in the backfield with you?
Well, it was Nick Giaquinto. Nick was something. Larry Brown I guess, was another one.
Towards the end of his
Larry.
career with you, yeah.
Right. Yeah, but still, he was so explosive and dynamic. I mean, he was better off at the running back position for my arm than he was at the fullback position because he was 2 yards closer to me.
Right.
And it almost ripped my arm off. But it was
Mike Thomas. Remember him?
And I'll tell you, Joe Washington. Joe Washington was a small guy, but he was a great inside runner. Joe preferred to run inside as opposed to, you might think with his side, they want to run him outside. Joe preferred to run inside.
All right. Tomorrow night's matchup, I said at the beginning of the show, this is as big an early season game as this franchise has had in a long time. I mean, this is, other than Kansas City, Philly, this is the game of the weekend. Did you have a chance to see any of the Packers-Lions game? What do you think are kind of the keys to going into Lambeau and winning?
I think you have to control down and distance. You can't put yourself in a situation where you're going to be 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8 a lot. You can't make mistakes and take the big penalties. I think you want to keep this thing close. I don't think Detroit is anything near what they probably will be. They're more of a I think a passing team than they are a running team. I think we'll try and run the football a little bit more and control the game in that regard, but we still have the playmakers. It's going to be what our offensive line is able to do with their defensive line. It seems like, I repeat myself, but that's where the game is really won and lost, is up front. Jared Goff didn't have a lot of time. He didn't have a lot of places to go with the football. He completed 31 of 39 passes for like a little over 200 yards.
Yep.
I mean, if you complete 31 passes, you should have, 300 plus yards. I mean, that's just, the numbers just work that way. And so, Green Bay, like I said, I think they got better. And, Micah's like a speed receiver. He, on the defensive side of the ball, if you pay too much attention to him, you're going to open up the other guys, which they're not slugs either. With like a Tariq Hill or somebody who can take the top off of a defense, it keeps the safeties at bay, so you're able to run the ball. So, I mean, that's the balance. Is how do you block him one-on-one? Where do they put him so that he can't get the quick move and have a problem for Jaden? So I think schematically it's interesting. It's going to be interesting the way Cliff calls this game.
When you think Packers, Washington in prime time, Joe didn't have 200 plus yards with 31 completions. He had 398 yards on 27 completions in one of the greatest regular season NFL games of all time, and certainly one of the greatest Monday night games of all time, the 48-47 game back in 1983. An insane game where that may have been the only big kick Mosley ever missed.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you a little story about that. First of all, it was funny. We score a touchdown. I'd go through my routine. I'd get to the sidelines. I'd grab my towel, put it on my knee. I'd sit on the bench, and I would wait for us to get the ball back. So we score a touchdown. I walk to the sidelines. I sit down on the bench. Russ Grimm walks up to me. He says, "Let's go." I said, "We just scored." He said, "I know. So did they. Let's go." And so now this is the story of Mark's kick. God bless him. And he'll forgive me, I know, for this. So it was probably the best 2-minute drill I felt like I ever ran. We had no timeouts. I kept hitting Joe Washington. He'd run out of bounds. Finally, I got in the huddle. I said, "Look," I told Charlie Brown, I said, "Charlie, I'm coming to you. I need at least 15 more yards to give Mark a chance. I'm going to look at Joe, but I'm going to throw it to you. So you've got to find the hole coming in." It was a 4.28 we used to run all the time. So, it works out. Charlie, we managed to get there. I guess we had one timeout left. We call it time. I think it's a 39-yard field goal, somewhere around there.
Nailed it.
And so I kneel down, and I'm thinking, this is, in my mind, it's like it's going to be 50-48. What an unbelievable game.
Yeah.
And this is Mo, man. This is the MVP. This is our MVP of the year before. So I look up at him, and I go, "You ready?" "Yeah." So I catch the ball, I put it down, he kicks it, and he misses it. And I turned to him, I said, "You got to be bleeping kidding me." And he looked at me and he said, "You missed the spot." Because wherever I put my finger, I always set the ball down approximately 1 inch inside of it. It's just the way the ball went down. And he looks at me and says, "You missed the spot." I said, "You know what? You're lucky we're on TV, or I'd strangle you right now." I love the guy, man.
How many games did he win? But I think that may be the only one he missed when it mattered. That San Francisco championship game that year, he missed a bunch of kicks, but made the one that mattered, at the end.
Yeah. No,
in the
Mark
NFC
was
title game.
The only kicker in the history of the NFL to be an MVP.
Yeah. One last one, and I'll let you run because you mentioned this person's name, and I've already talked about him on the show. What do you see watching Caleb Williams?
I see a young man who's trying to process the aspect of the game. He still has a lot of college stuff in him. It's you find a receiver, throw to a receiver. I don't see him reading the defense yet. I know he's new and young, and he has physical talent. I think he's got to learn how to be a passer, not a thrower. That's the one thing I see in him. I think he found out last year that you're not going to outrun these guys, that you have to operate out of the pocket and get the ball out of your hand. I think in the process of getting the ball out of your hand, like I said, he needs to develop a touch, be able to throw the ball into the seams. You have to be able to throw the ball so that receivers don't feel like they have to defend themselves from the velocity of the ball that's coming at you. I mean, I didn't throw the ball that hard, but you threw it hard enough to get it where it needed to go. Joe Montana didn't throw it that hard. Now, Tom, on the other hand, Tom could throw it real hard, but he could also take a lot off of it if he had to. I think that's the thing. To me, I see it in Cam Ward, and I see it in Caleb Williams. They're both fast ball throwers, and if they're going to have any success in this game, they're going to have to learn how to take something off the ball, make it so that the receiver make it a catchable football, I guess is the best way to put it. He has athleticism. I think, he has the arm strength. Now it's a question of how quickly can he process Ben's offense. And then down in Tennessee, he's a bit of a sidearm slinger. Be interesting to see how he develops through time, because as you've seen with Justin Fields, you just can't play this position with athleticism. You have to be able to be a good thrower if you want to have any sustained success in the National Football League.
Do you see what Brady said a few weeks ago? He said Aaron Rodgers is the greatest passer of the football of all time. Do you agree with that?
I thought Sonny Jurgensen was. And I worked with him, and I used to study him, and I'm telling you something. He knew exactly how to throw a ball, where to put a ball, what touch it had on the ball. Now, Aaron is very unique and different. You could never emulate Aaron's throwing style, because quite often he throws the ball with both feet off the ground. I mean, he's a fadeaway thrower a little bit. He has great touch. Obviously, at 40, he doesn't have the strength that he had in his arm. But I think 2 years removed from the Achilles, you see the way he's able to throw the football again. I think he's one of the top. He's one of the great ones. So let's be honest. I mean,
Marino. Look, I didn't see Sonny in his heyday. I saw Sonny at the end, and he's obviously an all-time favorite, and has been considered by many to be the greatest pure passer ever. But the whole quick release, accuracy, arm strength, for me, it was Marino.
Well, Danny was an interesting thrower. His throwing style, the ball never came back very far.
Right.
You could put a wall behind him and he could still throw it with the release.
Yeah.
AR is that way. He gets it out real quick. But getting it out real quick, it's tied together with the decision process. And this is what I was talking about, Caleb. He has to learn he has to learn the routes. He has to learn where the ball is supposed to go. Then you can anticipate it, and then you don't have to throw it as hard. Like college kids, you have to see it and throw it. At our level, you have to throw it before you see it.
Yeah, no doubt. Always enjoy it. Hope you had a nice birthday. Hit him straight if that's where you're headed. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Joe Theismann, everybody. All right. I want to do something in the wake of the opener and then before tomorrow night's game. Tomorrow we'll spend all of the show previewing and talking about the Packers. We've already done that here in the first hour of the show. What do you think you can take from the opener and feel really good about being sustainable, being something that is real? You heard what Joe said at the beginning. I completely agree with that. I think this part of the season, if you look back, in recent seasons in particular with the lack of preseason play, you look at week 1, you look at week 2, sometimes week 3, and you're like, wow, that's a completely different thing than I thought in terms of what it ultimately became. But is there something from the opener on Sunday and maybe from the summer in the offseason that you believe in your heart is real and it's going to be sustainable and it's going to continue to be something that ends up being really good, or maybe something that concerns you? 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. I have one, and I don't think it's one that you think I'm going to say. I'll have it next. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. So what do you think you can take out of Sunday's game that you believe will be sustainable, even though this time of year tends to be misleading? It just is year in and year out. It is clearly a result of they just don't do much in the preseason. They don't play a lot. They don't hit a lot. As Joe said, this is pretty much for the first couple of weeks an extension of the preseason. But did you see something, good or bad, that you think will be something that continues, and what you saw Sunday will be what you continue to see the rest of the year? So I'm going to mention something, and then it's going to lead into something that didn't happen, but I think will happen. So I think when you're a good tackling team in week one, that's a really good sign for the season. You tend to be at your sloppiest and worst as a tackling team defensively early in the season. They were exceptional Sunday tackling. By the way, everywhere across the board, all three levels. Up front, where they have, I think, more versatility than we thought they would have, maybe even more depth. They have obviously still a guy that is the most trustworthy guy on the team in Bobby Wagner. They don't let him come off the field. And then I thought the back end, it was a massive change from last year. I think what came out of Sunday is, for me, they're going to be a good tackling team, which automatically means they'll be better defensively than they were last year. So that is what I think I can take out of the opener and feel pretty good, won't let me down moving forward. If you're a good tackling team in the opener, you're probably going to be a good tackling team all year. Now, if they don't end up being a good tackling team, injuries can be a part of that, but it may be because of who they faced, the opponent. But the next part of it, which I'm not asking you guys to have a next part at 301-230-0980, I want you to give me what you saw from Sunday that you believe will be sustained for the rest of the year. You think it's real. You don't think that, that part of Sunday's game you're buying into. But if they're a better tackling team, and I'm right about that, even though they did not have a takeaway on Sunday, I think they'll end up with a lot more this year than last year. They had 17, only 6 teams in the league had fewer. I've mentioned this before, but 12 of the 14 playoff teams had more takeaways than Washington. In fact, the average of 12 out of the other 14 teams was 26 takeaways during last season. Washington had 17. By the way, the other team that only had 17 was Baltimore in terms of playoff teams last year. But better tackling leads to a chance for more balls on the ground, especially if the tackling is quick and early, and that second guy's got a chance to knock the ball out and punch the ball out. So that, to me, was the thing out of Sunday's game that I feel really good about. Like, look, Jaden, I should have said this going into it. I feel good about Jaden Daniels, obviously. Okay? He's really good. Then I thought he was really good Sunday. The bar's so high, he didn't clear the bar because of all of the, A-plus brilliant performances last year, but he was still damn good. And they probably, I don't know if they don't win the game, but it's a different game without him. Clearly, every game would be different without him. But other than him, to me, tackling was impressive. The flying around, the swarming, the hitting. I think if you tackle well in week one, there's a good chance you're going to be a good tackling team all season long. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. What from Sunday do you think stands up the rest of the way? What about you, Max?
Kevin, funnily enough, we didn't discuss this beforehand, but I was also going to say tackling because there was a time where it was Thanksgiving. I had just started working here. I was working on Thanksgiving when we played the Cowboys, and I was watching the game with Linnell. And there was one thing that I said to him that really kind of stood out to him, and the more he talked about it, it stood out to me. And I said to him, when is this Commanders team going to have a defense that flies around like the Cowboys defense did in that Thanksgiving game?
Not last year. You're talking about 2 years ago?
2 years ago when they were coached by Dan Quinn. And when Dan Quinn got here, that was kind of one of the things. It was like, all right, this team's going to fly around. They're going to tackle. And it is shown out in spades already for this season. Now we'll see kind of where they go from here. But funnily, he also, because I was cutting up his presser, Dan Quinn also had a big thing, or had a very long answer to a question that Ben asked him about tackling. You want to hear it?
Yeah, I do.
All right, let's hear it.
And the tackling seemed to be really good in this first game. You guys don't get to practice it in the traditional way throughout the summer. Obviously, this is what these guys do. But on the other hand, like, I guess, how do you make sure that these guys are going to be ready to do this thing that they don't actually get to do most of the summer leading up to this?
Yeah, you're right, Ben. And that's why, like the September football, I wanted to make sure the how was right. You know, the physicality, the running, the hitting. So you'll have to drill it as best you can. Not all tackles are exactly the same. There's ones that we call profile, where I'm squared up on you, you're squared up on me. In the padded practices, we do thud those up. I see you, you see me. We try to, get some contact on that. Then there's one that's called a two-man tackle. You have a leverage, I have a leverage. So we're trying to sprint to that spot. And so much of tackling is about leverage. There's somebody on another side. So you don't want to be straight down the middle where a guy can have a two-way go. So owning your leverage, running your feet on contact, you can drill some of that, but there's no drill that would simulate a 220-pound back, running his feet on contact. And so that's harder. And you do need the live reps at that. And so that's why I want the play style, the attitude to continue to build. And I sense that is what you want to have. You don't want like we're plateauing. You want it to keep improving. But it's a challenge.
Interesting. What did he say at the beginning? He said, the how, that's why we want the how to be right.
Mm-hmm.
The how, like HOW.
Yep.
I didn't know what that meant, but I think I know what it means.
Yeah,
now.
kind of the how of tackling and the leverage and on all those things.
The how. Yeah, right. You gotta have the how part right, and then you gotta execute the how. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
Last year they did have, like, Wagner was a really good tackler. Chin was a really good tackler last year, but the rest of the secondary really wasn't. And that was problematic. Their ends weren't necessarily. They got gashed, on the edges in particular, and there were too many yards after contact, although late in the season, there wasn't enough contact early enough, if you recall. But that's interesting. I mean, it is one of those things, we know this as NFL fans, that early in the season, tackling tends to be sloppy. And there are a lot of missed tackles because it's a new thing. They haven't done it since last year for the most part. All right. So we both had the same answer to the question, right? We did. Let's go to Greg in Gaithersburg. Greg, what's the thing from Sunday's game that you think will stand up the rest of the year? That it's not misleading, you liked it, and you think it's sustainable? Or maybe, by the way, it could be the other way. You think a negative thing is going to end up standing up the rest of the way?
Well, Kevin, I think I got a couple of things real quick. I agree with the tackling, but what I noticed about the tackling is a lot of times it was like gang tackling. You had more than one guy trying to tackle a ball carrier, which is always great. I think another thing that I noticed is I feel good about their depth at most of the positions. I don't feel like we lose a lot if somebody comes out in certain spots. And then last but not least, what I felt good is that they beat a team that they should have beaten. A lot of times in the past, the Giants would always give them a hard time, but you get against a team that you're favored against, and then you blow it, and they upset you, and you look kind of embarrassed. So those are my three issues.
Yeah, they pretty much did that last year, though. And not only did they beat the teams they were supposed to beat, in a couple of instances they hammered them. Carolina, Tennessee come to mind. I got to pull up the schedule to find the other ones, but that would be really. Those games that you go into in the NFL, it's really hard to say, a should win game because teams are so close and anything can happen. But last year at Arizona, Cleveland at home, Carolina at home, Chicago at home, needed a Hail Mary, Tennessee at home. Those were five games in which they were playing teams that, well, I guess Chicago was decent in the moment, but they hammered Arizona, they hammered Cleveland, they hammered Tennessee, they hammered Carolina. They got lucky against New Orleans. That's true, late in the year. But maybe that will be something we can count on. You know, those are teams, the teams that lose those games that they're not supposed to lose, you can sometimes point to culture. You can point to coaching. Gibbs was the all-time best at handling the games that he was supposed to handle. And you don't have many of those opportunities during the course of a year. And if you don't handle those games, they come back to bite you at the end. You know, they end up being the difference between a playoff berth and not a playoff berth, a division title and not a division title. So maybe that is going to be something that Dan Quinn coach teams are really good at, winning the games they're supposed to win or that there's, you know, significant favorites in. Let's go to Peter. Peter in DC, what did you take away from Sunday's game that you think will stand up the rest of the year?
I think it kind of dovetails with what you said about the tackling. What I saw was energy. Everybody playing as a team, working hard. Lots of times in a game, you see some elements of the team doing well and others not so well. But I thought the crowning moment for me, which hasn't really been mentioned, was Austin Eckler's run, where he ran for 15 yards, blew through 3 pretty much sure tackles. But it seems like they're playing hard. They're playing as a team. They're helping each other out. It's like they're working hard to overcome the thought that, oh, there's going to be a letdown. Everybody seems like they're trying hard and really trying to perform their job.
You know, it's a really good point. I love when people say, and Tommy says this to me all the time, well, that's what they're supposed to do is try hard. Why do you give them credit for it? And I'm like, yeah, but if you watch sports and you watch this league, there are teams that don't appear to play with that kind of urgency. And to me, it's always, it points back to the culture. It points back to the roster assembly. It points back to coaching, all of those things. And, you know, what's interesting about that is the contrast in openers, last year's opener and this year's opener. All they talked about last year before the opener was, we want to be a team that plays fast, plays physically, that we want to set the tone. That's what we want to be. We want you guys to say, even, you know, if the results don't go the way we want them to go, yeah, but that team gives it all they have. And in the opener last year, that was the one game in which you're like, where's the swarming? Where's the effort? But if you recall, it was also like 95 degrees with like 180% humidity. I know that's not possible. And they just completely were sapped of energy, not to mention it was a rookie quarterback's first game, and it was there, you know, a lot of new players together for the first time. But the rest of the year, we saw that. And then we didn't see it in the preseason opener with a bunch of players who are not on the roster. And Quinn took that personally. In the next game against Cincinnati, we saw it. Now, starters played for a little bit, not much. But yeah, I don't think that's one of those things you should take for granted. I don't think that every team, we've seen teams completely fold the tent. We've seen teams that are not inspired. And this team with this coaching staff has seemed pretty much in every regular season game, with the exception of maybe last year's opener, to be inspired and ready. And I thought Sunday, more than that, it manifested itself defensively into really good results from a tackling standpoint. And at times last year, they were trying hard, they were swarming, but they didn't, you know, finish too often. Again, I may look back on this and say, well, it was the Giants, and the Giants turned out to be a horrible offensive team. Or it was the Giants without Jackson Dart, or the Giants without Jameis Winston. By the way, I'm wondering why, if everybody believes that Russell Wilson is shot, and maybe they don't want to play Jackson Dart, although they should, why not Jameis Winston? He's on that roster. Is he there just for yucks? Is he there just for entertainment? I mean, Jameis Winston on Sunday would have been a better quarterback for the Giants than Russell Wilson. No doubt. Jameis Winston can see it, can process it, can throw it. And Russ looked like an absolute shell of anything he's ever been. Do you agree with me? I bet if Jameis Winston had played Sunday, the Giants would have played better on offense.
Jameis, that's the thing about Jameis, man. It's like he's the ultimate vibes quarterback. So anytime like he comes in for a team, a lot of times I feel like the guys behind him will get behind him just because like of the way that Jameis plays and the way he acts before games. Like he's Mr. Inspirational. So I definitely
Jameis can throw the football.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, the problem is he throws it to the other team as much as he throws it to his team, but he can sling it. He's just a high risk taker. I don't know. I'm curious. Like they're going to start Russell Wilson against the Cowboys this week, and if it looks just as bad as it did against us, then there's going to be a new quarterback in week 3. I would think, whether it's Winston or Dart. If they're 0-2. You should take, if they believe that he's even 3/4 of the way ready, rip the Band-Aid off. Let's go with the rookie. I would do that.
Debut against the Chiefs Sunday night, week 3.
Is that what they have for week 3?
Yeah. They might wait another week, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, you might do that. One of the worst things you can be in, one of the worst situations you can be in, and we were in this situation in 2019, is drafting a quarterback high, but also having a coaching staff that needs to win. It's a terrible mix. It's terrible for the coaching staff. It's terrible for the young player. It's terrible for the fan base. It would have been much smarter if and I think Brian Daboll, I actually don't have a lot of issues with Daboll. I think he's a good play caller. I think he's a good offensive guy. Joe Shane, whatever. But if you're going to go quarterback and you're going to trade up into the first round and you're going to take that quarterback, you really need a coaching staff that has plenty of time to do it right and to do it at their speed and to do it, because Brian Daboll's got to win. Joe Shane's got to win this year, or they're done. There's pretty much, I guess there's the scenario if they go to Dart early enough that Dart makes that progress and looks really good, and they don't want to ruin that momentum at the end of the year, which may be if they lose Sunday, they'll go Dart. They'll go Jackson Dart if they lose Sunday against the Chiefs. If you want to weigh in on the question, 301-230-0980, what from Sunday's opener against the Giants do you think ends up holding up for the season? It's sustained. It's real. You took it as wow, and that's something that's going to happen, good or bad, through the rest of the season. There wasn't a lot of bad, although the penalties weren't great. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right, here's what's happening. It is Wednesday, September 10th, and the NBA has announced they are looking into Malik Beasley's alleged gambling after the feds announced he was no longer a target of their investigation. The feds' investigation stems from allegations of improper gambling on NBA games and prop bets from the 23-24 NBA season, where Malik Beasley was with the Milwaukee Bucks. His attorneys have indicated that Beasley has been fully cooperative with both investigations. The Niners, they cut Jake Moody after a rough performance on Sunday, and they moved George Kittle to the injured reserve, where he will miss at least 4 games with a hamstring injury. The Mystics, they fall to the New York Liberty. Kiki Ariafin, again, the team leader in points and rebounds. The Mystics fall 75-66. The Nats, they are winners of 7 of their last 8. They beat the Marlins by a score of 7-5. Mitch Parker with a solid night with 7 2/3 innings pitched, only giving up 4 hits and 2 earned runs. Jose Ferrer gets the save. Jake Irvin on the bump tonight versus Yuri Perez. First pitch at 6:40. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:10 against the Marlins. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type of the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
We're going to talk Packers with somebody from Infinity Sports Network, Bart Winkler. Packers guy, covers the league too. We can talk a little league with him as well. Right now, what do you take away from Sunday's win over the Giants that you think will stand up the rest of the year? It is a misleading time of year, the early weeks of the NFL season, but what do you think you saw Sunday, good or bad, will be something that we see all season long? Max and I both had the same answer, and that was tackling. I think if you're an excellent tackling team in the opener, there's a good chance that's what you're going to be throughout the season, because typically teams don't tackle well early in the season. And I thought they were, as our last caller said, they swarmed. It was more than just one, and they tackled exceptionally well. Now, there's always that possibility the opponent had something to do with that. Let's go to Aveen. Aveen, go ahead. What did you see from Sunday that you think ends up holding up throughout the season?
Hey, Kevin, I've got it being a legit thing that Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's going to be a star for us this season and for upcoming seasons. What really, I know that seems like a leap, but what really kind of convinced me was, and this clip was circulating around of Daniel Jeremiah, who's a pretty level-headed, former scout, really good draft analyst. He said that Krosky-Merritt's tape just looked different to him. Like, his vision is already so advanced for a rookie. He has incredible patience, stop-start ability, burst through tackles. And he was saying he's a legit Rookie of the Year candidate because out of all the rookies, no rookie might be in a better situation right now than Krosky-Merritt, with having Jaden Daniels as a partner in zone read, playing behind our offensive line, and having the Cliff Kingsbury scheme that fits him really well. So I think that's a legit thing.
Did he say that he thinks he's a front runner for NFL offensive Rookie of the Year?
He said he has a legit shot because of the team he plays on, and he's going to put up big numbers.
The team he plays on is a huge benefit, and I completely agree with sort of the vision and the patience. There's no doubt that is why he was picked, because it's not, he's got good burst, he's got good speed, but it's not the high-end speed, but it doesn't matter with his vision and his decisiveness along with patience. Yeah, I agree with that. It's funny. I mean, I'm just thinking about the draft and offensive players. The first one that would come to mind would be Genty, right? In terms of a running back. I mean, there were so many running backs in this draft that went before him. That would be wild if the 7th rounder, and was he the last back in the draft picked? I'm looking at that right now. He was the last running back in the draft selected overall at 245. That would be wild. What else do you have, Aveen?
Really fast, Kevin, I just want to correct you about the Packers' losses. I think you kind of mischaracterized that. They never led the Vikings in any game. They started off being down 28-0 to the Vikings at home.
Oh, in the first game. Yeah, I had that wrong. It was the Vikings. It was the Packers who rallied and almost won.
Yeah, they were down 28-0 though. They're down 20-3 on the Vikings on the road. They're down 24-3 to the Lions at home last year.
That game was the one game that I remember being one-sided, that they didn't have a chance to win, the one that was at home.
Yeah, just really fast. My feeling on the Packers last season was they beat up on the lesser teams and they got jumped on by the better teams. They didn't really beat any good teams last season. So that's just my feeling. I think I kind of think this Super Bowl hype with them is a little overhyped.
We'll see. I think that watching, again, it's one game, but they are really good and fast and physical defensively. We'll see. Those of you on hold, stay there. Cleveland, Mark, Paulie, Jermaine, Chuck, what did you take from Sunday's game that you think kind of stands up throughout the entire season? We'll take more of your calls next. We got somebody coming on from Green Bay as well to talk about the Packers. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com. This from Craig. Craig sent me something from Pro Football Talk. In the Monday night game, Vikings defensive tackles, they're both new, Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, combined for 13 QB pressures against the Bears. Last year, Minnesota's starting defensive tackles combined for 21 all season long. So John Allen apparently had a pretty good football game. So did Emmanuel Forbes, and so did, I think, Jeremy Chin. I think I saw that Chin had a good game. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Who cares about former players? But it's always good and interesting to keep track of, the players that everybody here convinced, the terrible pick, can't play, done. You just never know sometimes. Sometimes it just takes a little while longer. The question being asked right now at 301-230-0980, what did you see Sunday against the Giants that you think is sustainable throughout the rest of the season? What do you think you saw that it's like, yeah, that's going to hold up, stand up throughout the season? Max and I both had the same answer. We said tackling. They were a very good tackling team, and my logic is if you're a good tackling team in the opener when most teams aren't, you're probably going to be a good tackling team all year long. I also like the versatility up front in particular and maybe the depth. And I thought the back end clearly looked more talented and much better as tacklers. What do you guys think? 301-230-0980. Cleveland in Laurel is on the line. Cleveland, thanks very much.
Throughout the rest of the season. What do you think you saw that it's like, yeah, that's
Cleveland, turn down your radio.
Turn your radio down, man. Put him on hold, and let's go to our guy, Mark in Largo. Mark, go ahead.
I told Max something different, but I'm gonna get to that in a second. I actually think the running is going to be sustainable. I actually think that this kid could threaten Alfred Morris's rookie record. I think that's a very good possibility. I think Merritt could definitely threaten Alfred Morris's rookie record. And I think that's something I'm surprised you guys haven't brought up. But well, Kevin, I know as smart as you are, you probably will.
Well, it's not just the rookie record, it's the record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
It's the single season rushing record in franchise history.
True.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now,
well, I'm just adding to your information that you were surprised we hadn't brought up yet.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Kevin, I want to say something that I think needs to be said. Look, Green Bay didn't do anything that was so great on Sunday. You know why? Because if Green Bay didn't have the blueprint on how to beat the Detroit Lions that we gave everybody in America on how to play Jared Goff, now Detroit can make all the excuses in the world about their defense, but there was nothing wrong with Jared Goff that day we played him. He turned the ball over 4 times, 3 interceptions and a fumble recovery.
What
we had a better
so
defense,
I just want to make sure I just want to make sure I've got your answer to the question that was asked, the reason we opened up phone lines. You think the running game and the rookie in particular, you saw from the opener that's going to hold up, stand up, and he's potentially going to become, in this rookie season, the franchise's all-time single-season rushing leader, which means, just so you know, he's got to rush for more than 1,613 yards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
No, I thought it was 1,688. Yeah,
1613 is the record. Alfred Morris, 2012.
Yeah. And I think he could do that. I believe he could do that. But back to what I was saying.
Yeah, because it's your show. Let's go ahead. Seriously.
Well, yeah, that's true
this
too.
Is so interesting.
No, you're okay. But back to what I was saying. I think when I look at the Packers, and I kind of agree with the last caller, I would hold off on thinking that they can win a Super Bowl. I basically think I think Detroit's going to have a bad year this year. Because I think I think the Commanders gave everybody a blueprint on how to play.
Counterpoint, and then I'm going to move on. The blueprint for beating the Lions in the divisional round playoff was to get 4 takeaways and not give away the ball. That was not the case on Sunday at Lambeau. What Green Bay did is defensively, they completely turned Detroit into a one-dimensional team by completely shutting down the run. Montgomery Gibbs, 20 carries for 44 yards. You can do the math on that one. It's about 2.1, 2.2 yards per carry. So we did not stop the run in that playoff game. We got gashed by Jahmyr Gibbs. He was averaging at one point, I think at halftime, 10 yards a carry. So completely different ways in which we won last January and Green Bay won on Sunday, just to sort of knock that out of the park as a theory. We didn't give them the blueprint. If we did give it to them, they used a different blueprint. Paulie, go ahead. What from week one do you take away as sustainable for the rest of the year?
Hell to the W, man. What's going on, big guy?
What's up?
How you doing?
Good.
All right. I got tempo. This team plays with tempo.
Yeah, it does.
On offense, you know what I mean? On offense, there's no wasted movement. You know, play is over, they get to the line, they go on to the next play. You know, even if they're not snapping the ball with 10 seconds left, or like on their 4 minutes offense, you know, we picked up a first down, they're back at the line. You know, Jaden sizing the defense up, we're going right to a play. And you can say the same thing on this team is playing with speed. And I think that's something that's sustainable throughout the year. And I think it gives us an advantage throughout the year also, because we run a lot of formations. We run a lot of plays with the same formations. We keep the other teams from making substitutions. Mm-hmm. And even when we make our own substitutions, we're still at the line of scrimmage. So this team plays with good tempo.
Yeah, did it last year. We saw it for all 17 games last year. So it makes sense that it'll happen again.
After Mark and Largo, I wanted to be coachable, Sheehan.
Let me just say, man. After Mark and Largo, typically you're the second least coachable of the callers. But you did very well today. I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Let's go to Jermaine in Bowie. Jermaine, what did you see Sunday that you think will stand up the rest of the year, something that is sustainable the rest of the year?
Yeah, let me first say that Green Bay, I disagree with that. Green Bay is a good team. That's going to be a tough game. And there's no way that Bill is going to rush for 1,600 yards. We got two other backs. We got Debo. We got Eckler. I mean, there's no way he'll rush 1,600 yards. But the reason I was calling was I think Jaden Daniels is the key. What I was looking for from last year was progress. As you know, the NFL will figure you out. So, you know, I was looking to see if we made progress with Jaden Daniels and Reed, with him running the offense, and I definitely saw that. Now, he was a little bit off, you know, the first game, so a little bit off tone, so he threw a couple of short balls, and it was an overthrown pass to Terry. But the way he ran the offense, and if you notice, a lot of those calls, he audibled at the line. So he was actually making reads at the line. So I think his command of the offense is so much better. I think his throw to which receivers he throws to, they were open receivers. So he looks much better, and I saw that progress from last year. So I think we got something special. I'm not sure yet, but I think we actually have a really good offense this year. And I think we got something special.
Yeah, we had a really good offense last year, no doubt. To me, that's almost a given, Jermaine. I'm not concerned at all, as long as he's the quarterback, that we're going to be, anything other than a really good offensive football team. But I mean, the fact that you think you saw progress and that'll stand up with him being even more comfortable in a system, that's a good one. Thanks. Let's go to Chuck. Chuck, what did you see Sunday that you think kind of holds up the rest of the year?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, Chuck?
I saw on the line of scrimmage, and that's where football begins, on both sides, in the trenches, I saw dominating performance. I think that on the defensive side, adding Kinlaw, and I've always loved Payne, I feel like Payne is going to have a big year because of Kinlaw, and I just think that defensive line, they're so versatile. I just think they're going to dominate, and I don't think that was a fluke. I mean, I was so hyped just watching them get off the ball, pushing them guys around.
Yeah.
And I mean on both sides of the ball. And I like I say, that's where football begins at. You know what I'm saying? And that defensive line automatically made our secondary.
You're breaking up a little bit, Chuck, but yeah, no, good call. And I think, what I expected with you guys is that all of you would say what I saw defensively is going to hold up the rest of the year. I can't go there yet because of the opponent. I can go with tackling, which means for me, they're going to be better than they were last year. It would be kind of hard to be worse than they were last year. I think they're motivated. I think they know what the criticism of that team was last year and why they didn't take that extra step in January last year. I think you're right about Kinlaw. I mean, it's just one game, but part of it is just the belief that the Peters will get another one right on free agency. And I'm a big Duran guy. I've always been a big Duran guy. Let's go to Jay in DC. Jay, go ahead.
What up, Kevin?
Hey, Jay.
I think Jaden Daniels' ability to extend plays will just continue from last year. When the play's not drawing up exactly how you want it to be, like for the defense and whatnot, he always extends plays. He makes plays, and I just think that ability will propel us to, at least get back to the playoffs and hopefully get back to where we were. What do you think about that? What do you think about Kingsbury? I love him sometimes, and then some plays I look at him, I'm like, well, why did you call that play? So I just hope that Jaden, he continues his maturation, and when stuff breaks down in front of him, he can make things happen.
His superpowers, certainly near the top of the list, is creating, off schedule. When the play's not there, being able to create, an answer. And it's really hard to defend him because of that, no doubt. Thanks, Jay. Let's go to Brendan to finish it up. Brendan, what do you think from Sunday will stand up for the entire year? What'd you see Sunday that is sustainable over the next 16 weeks?
Thanks for having me, Kevin. I know this take is a little unsustainable in its nature, but let me just say, with Debo's health, as long as Debo is healthy, the offense is going to run through Debo. I saw him leading us in touches for the rest of the season if he's out there, and I see an all-pro season if that continues. I mean, I love Terry, but at his peak, Debo's a better player, and I think Cliff is going to give him the ball in motions, and he runs them on the outside. I saw him at training camp. He was running every route. I mean, as a receiver, people have underestimated his abilities. So I think Cliff is going to keep calling and running the offense through Debo Samuel.
I thought about that as my answer, but I just felt like tackling the way they tackled is, it's logical that it'll hold up if it was that good in the opener. But I thought about what you said. I've been very much sort of super optimistic about what Debo's 2025 season would be. The key, as you mentioned, is his availability, and not only his availability, because he's played a lot in his career, not at 100%, but his 100% health availability, because he is a special player when he's healthy. And I think Kingsbury absolutely has the creativity to get the best out of him. And as I've mentioned many times before, this is clearly the best quarterback he has played with. Not to mention, he's hungry, man. This is a contract year. I think Debo has a chance to have a monster year this year, and it started off pretty well. Good calls. Appreciate it. Bart Winkler will talk some NFL and Packers with us next. I do want to mention that right now is a really good time of the year to buy windows. We're getting ready for fall and then winter. Good time because the weather's kind of in between to swap out your older windows for newer windows that will cut down your expenses on heating in the winter and then next year your air conditioning bills. And right now, Window Nation is offering a deal that is the most popular they offer all year long. Buy 2 replacement windows, get 2 free with nothing owed if you take that option for 2 years. If you decide to finance the purchase, no down payment, no monthly payments, and no interest charged for 2 full years. You won't pay anything until the year 2027. With Window Nation, you get top quality windows from a trusted company, all at a reasonable price, because they know replacing windows is an investment for you and they want to make it affordable for you. Window Nation is the best when it comes to the product, customer service. They've got over 45,000 5-star reviews. They've got an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. 96% of their installs require no follow-up service. They do it right, and they're also offering it where you get 2 free windows with every 2 purchased, and you don't have to pay anything for 2 years. Hurry, this offer, this sale won't last forever. Call them at 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com today for your free in-home estimate. Dan Quinn's talking right now. If he says anything of note, we'll have it for you before the end of the show. Washington at Lambeau tomorrow night to take on the Packers. Green Bay, a 3.5-point favorite. The total's the highest on the board at 48.5 for week 2. Joining me right now is Bart Winkler from the Bart Winkler Show. 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Infinity Sports Network. Bart is a Packers guy. We'll talk some NFL with him as well. But here we are, week 2. And I said about this game tomorrow night, Bart, it's the second biggest game in week 2 after Eagles-Chiefs. What do you think?
Yeah, and it's a great way to start week 2. Thanks for having me on. Very excited for it. Playing at Lambeau. Packers are wearing the white jerseys. I'm not thrilled about that, but whatever. I'm a jersey nerd.
How
kinda.
often have they worn white at home?
This is like their 4th time. I don't know. They've been doing this. It's like sometimes they wear it in the winter, which is fine, but it's like a winter warm-up, they're calling it, or a blizzard preview, and it's like, I don't know. The green looks so good at Lambeau, and they're wearing the whites. I'm not thrilled
Bart,
about that.
I think the Packers probably are one of the few teams in the league that for years, like they were always dark jerseys at home. They're greens at home. Like we've gone back and forth, during the Gibbs era, it was white at home. We were burgundy before that. Then we went back to burgundy and, now it's a mix of everything. I mean, our jerseys don't even look like, the jerseys with the new name and the new branding and the whole thing. It looks like an expansion team, but that's another story for another day. But Green Bay's been one of those. No, this is what we wear at home. I didn't realize that they had worn white before. Interesting.
Yeah, just a few times. Back in the mid-'90s, there was actually a push. I think Ron Wolf was in charge. He was the GM. Or maybe it was Bob Harlan, who was the president, Kevin Harlan's dad.
Yeah.
They wanted to go back to what they used to wear in like the 20s and 30s full time. They wanted to go navy blue.
No, those things
gold.
are horrible. Those throwbacks.
It's fine as a throwback, but the green, I mean, there's something about Green Bay wearing green.
Yeah.
It's almost too on the nose. You can't not do it.
So is it all white or is it white with the yellow pants?
I'm pretty sure it's all white. White pants, white helmet, white jersey. Yeah, I'm not thrilled.
You're not thrilled about that. What about the matchup from Green Bay's perspective?
I'm very excited for it as a Packer guy. I think, Commanders, this is a great test for both teams. And I think that both teams should feel good about their prospects here in 25. Green Bay, I'm going to take them to go to the Super Bowl. I kind of almost do it every year that they're relatively good, even though they haven't been 2-1 since 2010. I think you see Aaron Rodgers slinging 4 touchdowns the other day, and you're like, oh, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, he won a Super Bowl recently. No, he didn't. It was 16 years ago.
Yeah.
And the Packers have had they've had good teams in that time, but have never been able to get back there. And I think with the new quarterback now in Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur's been here. I say new, but from Rodgers. But this is Jordan Love's 3rd season as a starter. Matt LaFleur's been here 7 years now. And I think what people are liking is that this team has been consistent on offense. They've added some good pieces. They bolstered their offensive line to the best that they could. Josh Jacobs coming back. But then, of course, the defense. And even before Micah Parsons, Jeff Hafley, 2nd year as a defensive coordinator, he's brought something different than others. Every Packers defensive coordinator, like the last 15 years, even when Dom Capers was here, everyone's just so reserved. Everyone plays it so safe. Everyone plays it so conservative. But Hafley was bringing something a little different. And when you look at the Packers on paper, and I fall into this trap every year because I look at their defense on paper and I'm like, oh, Rashawn Gary, 1st-round pick. When they had Kenny Clark, 1st-round pick. Lucas Van Ness, 1st-round pick. Quay Walker, 1st-round pick. Devontae Wyatt, 1st-round pick. And so you think, okay, these are good, talented, young run defenders. And then together, it's like, where is the aggression? Where is the intensity? Where is that kind of spark on the defense? Lo and behold, Micah Parsons comes in, and the impact that he had, it was 29 snaps. I think they had gotten 3 total sacks when he was in there. He got one of them. But you could tell right away when he was introduced, they introduced him last, great move, but the defense was just like, it didn't look like a Green Bay defense that you would expect. It looked like a Ravens defense or a Broncos defense or a Seahawks defense. Some of these teams are, you're like, oh yeah, that team's got a good defense. Guys flying around, Micah Parsons making things happen. They looked really good. They made the Lions offense look insanely bad. And so I think there's a lot of optimism. And now you're going to be up against a Commanders team with a quarterback, Jaden Daniels, who is going to test them. And I think that's going to be quite a battle tomorrow night.
Yeah, I talked about this at the beginning of the show today, that I went back and just watched the condensed version, not the whole thing. But what was really impressive to me was just how good they are defensively, how fast they play. And Detroit has a pretty good running back tandem with Montgomery and Gibbs. They could not run the football at all. And I know that Washington presents a different challenge with Jaden, not only as a mobile quarterback, but as part of the run game as well. But I thought it's interesting that you said it's been kind of conservative, even though it's been talented. And you think Parsons is the reason that maybe they're going to turn it loose a little bit more.
Yeah, I would still give some credit to Jeff Hafley. He was the coach at Boston College and then came over as a D coordinator, like I said, second year. But yeah, Micah Parsons you look at this trade, and I couldn't believe how many fan bases, Cowboys, and then everybody in the NFC North were quickly like pouring water on it and coping. And like, oh no, Micah Parsons can't stop the run. Micah Parsons is arguably, the top defender in the league. He's top 3, top 5. This is the guy that the Packers got 2 first-round picks. They're going to be in the 20s like they always are. And then, okay, you give up Kenny Clark, but Kenny Clark's like nice if you have a guy like Micah Parsons on your team. The Packers have not had a guy like Micah Parsons since Clay Matthews. Just somebody that is just all over the place, aggressive, a top guy. And I just can't reiterate, and I can't express enough, like, it's not a binary trade, because when you trade the picks and Kenny Clark for Micah Parsons, that's good in and of itself. You got Micah Parsons. That's tremendous. But also, all those other first-round picks that I mentioned, they all get better because there's double teaming on Parsons. Just the whole vibe of the defense. It is wild to see a Packers defense play the way that they did and play with, more than anything, like the confidence that they know they're good. They know they can get to the quarterback. They know they can stop the run. For so often, and maybe, it's one game and things will go back to normal, I guess, around here. And maybe Jaden Daniels carves them up, whatever. But it does seem different with Parsons, and it just seems like for so long, the Packers defense, okay, you're going to get your overs, you're going to get your 300 yards, you're going to get your 115 receiving yards, you're going to get your 100 yards rushing, bend but don't break. Well, now they didn't even bend against Detroit, and that touchdown came very, very late in the game. Otherwise, they hold them to 6 points. So, the optimism in the defense, I think, should be warranted. And just the presence, like Micah Parsons is going to have an impact statistically, but the presence of him, I think, is worth. I would have been fine if they gave more first-round picks. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. We were talking to Bart Winkler from the Bart Winkler Show. You can give him a follow on X at Bart Winkler Show, Infinity Sportsnet, weeknights 10 to 2 a.m. Eastern. So the other thing that stood out is, and I've just been a fan, and I want to hear what you think, but Jordan Love can really throw the football. And he had 8 different receivers catch balls in the first quarter. Like, that's been the question about Green Bay, like the supporting cast, the receivers. Give me a minute or two on what you're expecting the Green Bay offense to look like this year and be.
Well, with Jordan Love, he is a good quarterback. And I don't know where people rank him. I think they tend to rank him a little lower than they should. But I think when you see some of these quarterbacks, like a Caleb Williams or guys that you're wondering, do they have the ability to play like a top quarterback? The potential's there, but have you actually seen it? You've seen it with Jordan Love. For whatever reason, the great throws that he has, and he's hitting guys wide open on Sunday. Those don't get shared. Those you like a casual NFL fan doesn't see. They see last year when he was hurt and he was confused in the end zone and he threw a pick six that was like a 3-yard return to the Rams. So there's been that, but I think last year he was hurt and it did affect him. Now he's hurt on his non-throwing hand, and I wondered, like, is that going to play mind games in his head? I don't think it has up to this point, just after one game. The receivers, I do, sometimes people ask me like fantasy stuff. Oh, should I start Jaden Reed? Should I start Romeo Dobbs? Should I start, Devontae Wicks? I don't know. One of them is going to go off. One of them is going to have a nice day. One of them is going to score. One of them might have 5 catches for 90 yards. I just never know, and I'm not sure the Packers ever know who that's going to be. Josh Jacobs then is a big part of the offense, his 9th straight game with a touchdown. Now, he started slow in that first half, and I was a little concerned there, but then as the game went on, he got the big yards, the big first downs that he needed. So, yeah, the offense for a long time, we talked about the Packers defense to start. That is rare in and of itself, but the offense, I think there's a lot of good feelings and good players on that team that are really going to, make it an incredible game, I think, Thursday, and should be an incredible season for Green Bay.
You mentioned Dobbs, Reed, and Wicks. You didn't mention the rookie. There's a lot of excitement about Matthew Golden, correct? And I don't know what his snap count was. He had a couple of catches when I watched the condensed version, but what kind of factor this early in the season do you expect him to be?
Yeah, I think the same thing that they kind of did with Micah Parsons, they're maybe doing with Matthew Golden, where you're not throwing the whole playbook at him right away. But this is the first wide receiver they drafted in the first round since 2002, I think. It was Javon Walker. And then team president, he had to retire because he was 70, and that's a bylaw in Green Bay, and maybe a good one. I don't know. I'm not ageist. But he plays it up to the crowd because it's in Green Bay. They get this wide receiver. It's an awesome moment. And then when you look at the tape, you're like, okay, Matthew Golden did a lot of good stuff in Texas, but he didn't maybe do this or he didn't maybe do that. And then he gets to training camp and he can do it all. I mean, anything that you're expecting for him, any route that you want him to run, they just didn't require that of him when he was in college. So I do think that he is going to be a bigger part of this team. I don't know that he's going to be the number one receiver. I don't know that the Packers are going to have an offense that, like, you can say, oh, that guy, Justin Jefferson's the number one and Jordan Addison's the number 2 and Adam Thielen's the number 3. Right. I don't know, or Terry McLaurin's the number 1 and Devo's the number 2. I don't think the Packers are going to get to that point. But if there is a guy who's going to consistently make an impact and have big games and have the touchdown and have the long yards after the catch, I think as the season progresses, it will be Golden, maybe more so than some of these other guys. But there's reason for optimism for all of them.
By the way, you've got a very reliable kicker. He was here, signed as a free agent before last season, and then those allegations from Jacksonville popped up. And, around here, given the history of the franchise, there's not a lot of chances taken, so they cut him loose. But Brandon McManus is now in Green Bay 22 out of his last 23 kicks.
Well, I don't know that the Packers, and a lot of teams were uncomfortable with the off-field stuff that had happened or been accused. And sometimes that tells you how bad things were for Green Bay at the kicker position, where they're like, okay, whatever PR hit, whatever morality hit, whatever they find out about this, we have to just sign the best football player because our kicking is so atrocious. And since he's been here, that the amount of time that used to be spent on sports radio in Wisconsin about the kicker was obnoxious. And ever since McManus has come in here and constantly delivered, we don't talk about the kicker anymore in Wisconsin. And I think that is ultimately what the Packers were hoping for with the signing, and it has paid off.
Without him last year, we had 4 kickers during the course of the season. So real quickly on the injury list, Parsons is on it. I mean, is there anybody actually with respect to Parsons? given that he had just gotten in the week before the game, he played 29, 30 snaps on Sunday, short turnaround. Do you think it'll be a pitch count tomorrow night with him as well?
I think that I think what they were looking at was, just get him in here, have him as a big impact, make those moments count. I would like to see him start to play more. I mean, you traded, like I said, the first round picks and Kenny Clark. It's just a matter of how healthy he's going to be, and he looked healthy. So yeah, I would expect him to start to play more. Do we get, the full complement of Micah Parsons? I don't know, but what is the full complement going to look like? Is he going to be a guy that, they come in on second down, third down when it's passing situations? I'd like to see him out there as much as possible. I would like to see him out there on every down. I don't care. He's not good against the run. Okay, well, let him try that here and we'll see. I don't think it's going to be, all right, this is 100%. This is how we're going to use them. But I would expect more, certainly, than it was the other night, especially because it's a big game. The NFL, there's 17 games.
Yeah, this could be a really big game when we get to the end of the season, no doubt.
Well, you watch these other sports, and sometimes you totally overreact to one baseball loss or a bad stretch in the NBA, and you're like, what am I doing here? But in the NFL, there's only 17. They are important. Like some of these week one games, we're overreacting. I don't know. I don't know. You don't get a lot of opportunities. You can't dig yourself in that big of a hole that quickly, and especially when it's against two teams that are going to be there towards the end. Do we look back and say, the Packers beat the Commanders, the Commanders beat the Packers, and that's why this game is here on January 25th? Maybe. I think in the NFL it's okay to treat games with the importance that they deserve.
Yeah, I think, all these games matter and they're significant because of what you said. I think what is also true simultaneously is that the early weeks of the season can be incredibly misleading in terms of what these teams are because they just don't play a lot during the preseason. I wanted to ask you something just about Lambeau tomorrow night. As great a venue, historic a venue as it is, because it's historic, because it's on the bucket list for so many sports fans, so many NFL fans. In recent years in particular, when you've had a really good fan base, traveling to Lambeau, there are a lot of fans at Lambeau from the opposing team. Am I right about that, A? And then B, if that's true, I think there's going to be a lot of Washington fans at Lambeau tomorrow night.
Well, there were enough Lions fans that Matt LaFleur, unprompted, said something in the press conference after, which I don't love.
What did he say?
He's just like, all these people sold their tickets. It would have been great to have more. I saw too much blue or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Focus. Keep end zone to end zone, man.
But is he right?
Yeah. As of late, they have started to, and it's not like a full takeover, and it's definitely.
It's not what we've had.
It's not like Los Angeles when the Niners play the Rams.
Or Washington for many years, yeah.
Yeah, but there has been a noticeable gaining of some of these fans. I'll tell you though, when I with my old high school buddies, we take a trip every year. Haven't been to Washington yet, but we take a trip every year to a road game. And Packers fans, they travel.
Oh yeah,
they travel. So we're going out to Denver this year. I can't wait for that. So Packer fans, they show up, but the Lambeau thing, some of the issue to that, I would say, is you do have a lot of people that have been on the season ticket list forever. I got on it when I was 15. Okay, I'm 41 now. I'm still 43rd thousandth place to get season tickets. I don't even know if I want them. I just want to be on the list and get a postcard every year. But you have so many people that are again, I don't want to be ageist, but you have so many people that go there almost as oh God, I got these tickets. I got to use these tickets. I got to go.
Yeah, no, you're right.
You sell them. You get the season tickets year after year. You're going to be like, this is expensive.
No,
I'll sell a couple of games, go to 6, make up for it. So yeah, that is happening. That's the pros and cons. When you have a lot of people that are on the season ticket waiting list, it takes forever to get on. But then the people that have the tickets, that's very expensive. And so they do sell a couple of games to pay that ticket, package off. So yeah, I mean, you're gonna look, and there will be you'll look whatever the TV shot is, and you'll be like, oh, that's more Commanders fans than I thought there would be. The Packers fans will drown them out, but they'll be there.
So 2 more, and I'll let you run. Appreciate the time. Who do you like tomorrow night, and why? And then give me sort of your early, hunch on how the NFC North plays out.
Okay, I'm going to take the Packers. I think I might not if they were on the road. I think I might not take them. But the Commanders, I look at the Commanders game, even coming into the season, as more challenging than Detroit. And I totally could see, I mean, obviously, I think it's a coin flip. Commanders can come in, all the good positive feelings about the Packers defense eradicated in one night, and then they have to, pick up the pieces and get back there. But I can see Jaden Daniels having a huge game, and the running attack with the Commanders, everyone's in love with Bill. So I can see that. I think the Packers in this division, I think they will almost sleepwalk to the division crown.
Really?
Now, Minnesota showed us that they got some moxie there in the fourth quarter. Chicago, Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, I believe will work. But you talk to a Bears fan and you go, hey, Bears fan, you might, this might work in the future for you. And what do you mean? We're winning 11 games right now in the NFC. Okay, let's back off. Then they score right away on Monday night and they're like, see, then they lose. I am insanely down on Detroit, and I've been down on Detroit. When we do our playoff predictions, as every team does, every show does, I didn't put them in the playoffs. I think the 2 coordinator thing hurts a lot. I don't have the same affinity towards Dan Campbell as the rest of the league does. And if I look at their schedule, I had them for a loss in Green Bay, loss. They got the Ravens coming up. Okay, we'll see. That's on the road. But then this game this weekend, it's against the Bears, and again, they choked it away. But I feel like Ben Johnson has always known that he was going to take on Dan Campbell someday as a head coach. And I feel like there are things that he has done in the past with Detroit, almost as poison pills, that Dan Campbell's going to think Ben's doing something, and Ben's going to hit him with something completely different. Now, do they have the players to execute it? We'll see. But I'm not touching Detroit in pools. I'm not touching Detroit. I feel like Chicago can get this game this weekend, and Detroit could start 0-3. And then if Detroit starts 0-3, then you're having conversations about, hey, that was a nice 2-year run. Unfortunately, no one will remember it. So I don't know. I'm down on Detroit, very high on the Packers.
Sounds like as a Packer fan, you might be rooting for it, but it is interesting because it can happen that way in the NFL. They had these 2 years to get it done. They didn't. Their coordinators left. They got a quarterback that's immobile, and if he's not getting schemed up the right way and they're not scoring 30 a game, they could end up out of the playoffs for sure. It's the NFL. Anything can happen. Bart, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, enjoy the game tomorrow, but not too much.
Bart Winkler, everybody, from the Bart Winkler Show on the Infinity Sports Network, at Bart Winkler Show on X, on Twitter. All of our NFL talk here on the Team 980 is presented by Paramount Plus. You can't count on much, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Stream your local NFL game live every Sunday all season long, starting at just $30 for your first year. That's like $2.50 a month. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today.
All right, happy Wednesday. It is September 10th. Here's what's happening. The NBA is looking into Malik Beasley's alleged gambling allegations after the feds announced he was no longer a target of their investigation. The investigation stems from allegations of improper gambling on NBA games and prop bets from the 23-24 season when Beasley was with the Milwaukee Bucks. His attorneys have indicated that Beasley has been fully cooperative with both investigations. The 49ers, they cut Jake Moody after a rough Sunday afternoon, and they moved George Kittle to the IR where he will miss at least 4 games with a hamstring injury. The Mystics, they fall to the Liberty last night. Kiki Ariafin, again, the team leader in points and rebounds. Mystics fall 75-66. And the Nats, they are winners of 7 of their last 8. They beat the Marlins by a score of 7-5. Mitch Parker with a solid night, pitching 7 2/3 innings. giving up only 4 hits and 2 earned runs. Jose Ferrer earns the save. Tonight, the Nats will take on the Marlins once more. Jake Irvin on the bump versus Yuri Perez. First pitch at 6:40. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:10 on the Fan. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all of football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Interesting stuff about the NFC North. I mean, that division before, just last week was considered to be top to bottom the best division in football. With the Lions still the favorite to win the division. I don't know where they are now. I could go look at it. I would imagine that even after one game, the Packers are probably pretty close with the Lions, if not a slight favorite. It's funny how 1 week can really change the perception of a team, though. I mean, the Lions are, they won 15 games last year. They were the 1 seed in the NFC playoffs. And then they got beat 45-31 by Washington in the divisional round. And, and a season that was probably the most anticipated in Lions history in modern era football, with them having, gone to the NFC title game the year before, and they lost to the 49ers in that very close game. That was supposed to be the year last year, and it was a devastating loss. Devastating. It was, some of the best scenes for Washington fans during the quarterback Netflix series this summer were the Jared Goff scenes late in the season. Now, even all of his scenes, especially at home, were very, very sought after by NFL fans. For, one reason in particular, you can just go watch the show and you'll know what I'm talking about. His wife is rather attractive, but the devastation of the people involved in that organization on that Saturday night in January was incredible, because they thought this was going to be the year. They thought we're going to the Super Bowl. We got 2 games at home. We're going to the Super Bowl. And it was a massive beatdown. And now they go out without Ben Johnson in their first game. They barely put up any points at all. In watching the condensed version, they did throw the ball around a little bit. I mean, they had a difficult time running it. And their problem was just third down and dealing with the pass rush with a quarterback who isn't mobile. Maybe the Lions end up being a majorly disappointing team this year without Ben Johnson, without Aaron Glenn. Interesting because, as he said, he's got Ben Johnson this weekend at home. Dan Campbell against his former offensive coordinator. Then they're at the Ravens. They also have to go at Bengals, at Chiefs in early October in back-to-back games. I mean, these games matter. Even if they are misleading, they matter because there are only 17 of them. Could Detroit be the big step-back team of 2025? But it's interesting, right, that even though it tends to be misleading, the kind of proclamations that are made. Look, I was a big Pittsburgh believer and a big Aaron Rodgers believer. And now, after one game, it's like, whoa, they're totally different at quarterback. This is going to be a difference. And at the same time, they gave up 32 points to the Jets. What does that mean? Indianapolis, Miami. I mean, certainly a definitive opinion on Miami after 1 week. That one might turn out to be right. What else from week one? We talked about the stat that was put out there by Warren Sharp, the highest rate of incompletions in week one due to receiver error. Matthew Stafford had the most receiver drop/errors of any quarterback on Sunday. And that is probably a reason the Rams only scored 14 points, but they won the game. Number 2 on that list was Jaden Daniels. And that's one of the reasons, along with penalties, that they didn't score more than 21 points. Interesting, portion of the NFL schedule. But as I said at the beginning of the show, we get our team in a significant early season game for the first time, I think, in 8 years. I think you got to go back to 2017 and the week 3 game on Sunday Night Football against the Raiders to find a game NFL-wise, not for us. I mean, hell, the opener against Arizona a few years ago, the first game without Snyder, was a big deal for sure. Last year's, opener against Tampa because of the quarterback and the new coaching staff. But in terms of the rest of the league and their perception, this is the most meaningful early season game Washington has had since, I'm telling you, 2017 week 3 against the Raiders, when the Raiders were coming off that big season the year before. They were 12-4. They were 2-0 heading into FedEx that night. They were favored. Washington had been really good in 15, or had been good in 15, okay in 16, but were considered to be, a better team in 17 than they were 16. And they blew the Raiders out that night. But it's been a long time since we've been the focus early in a season in a game that people think matters. Tomorrow night matters big time. Back tomorrow to totally preview it and pick it and a lot more. Chris Russell's next.